Hey guys, I know I'm early, but the press conference is about to come on, so I'm gonna just go ahead and play that for y'all as everybody's coming in. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's this one, yeah.
We're not releasing any information as far as injuries, but we have multiple injuries. This is a very, very fluid investigation. It's very early. And I have asked the assistance of the GBI and the agencies here behind me today, and there are multiple agencies that responded this morning to help us and help the sheriff's office. We do have a suspect in custody, and we are asking for your patience as the media to please let us get the facts that we need to make sure we get this right. Again, I've asked the GBI to help us, the sheriff's office, to help us along with this. I know this is not what you want to hear, but I'm not going to answer questions after this is over with. But I wanted to give you the respect and our community respect to let them know what was going on initially. We're in the process of reunifying our students with their parents. Obviously, that's chaotic, but we want to be respectful of them and their privacy as well. I want to thank the state, the federal agencies, the local agencies that showed up today. As you can see, the multiple EMS and fire from other agencies that responded today. Again, I ask that you lift up Barrow County Schools, lift up Appalachia, lift up our agencies. This is going to take multiple days for us to get answers as to what happened and why this happened. But I wanted to give you a statement. It is our hope, in conjunction with these people behind us, that we can give you another statement around 4 o'clock, because I know you have to go back on the air. That is my hope. But I wanted to be fluid with you all, understanding that it's fluid as well with this investigation. I appreciate you being patient with us. Again, it's very active and is ever developing. Every minute is developing on what we're finding. So we're going to have releases from other schools. Again, we ask that you be patient with us. Please be patient with us. And hopefully I can give you more information or more better information, as you will, if you will, this afternoon. Thank you all for coming out here. We'll be back shortly, okay?
Sheriff, it's been widely reported that people are dead. Is that true?
I'm not releasing any information. We have multiple injuries.
Can you say if the person in custody is an adult or a juvenile?
I'm not releasing any information. Guys, I'm not going to answer any more questions this time, okay? Thank you.
All right, so we received just a very, very brief update. Let's listen here.
I'm trying to get the students back with their families. We will be holding a news conference at 4 o'clock. If you're not already following us on Twitter, X, make sure you're following us. We'll be providing updates then. I know there are a lot of details, investigative details. You want more information. That is what the investigators are actively working on right now. You can add?
Yeah, so the idea will be to be back here at 4 o'clock, but keep an eye on our social media. If that changes, you'll know it. We'll be able to address, hopefully answer more questions for you, okay? Or be in a position to give you more answers. We'll just have to see how things
We
go.
just realized this was happening. Tell us how many people, what you know about that.
We're not in any kind of position. The sheriff's made his comments. We'll leave it at that. By 4 o'clock, we hope to have a better picture, a bigger, so you can better comprehend what's going on. Okay, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so very minimal update there coming out of Barrow County, Georgia. We do know that the next update is coming at 4 p.m. Eastern. We will provide that to you once that does get going here on Live Now from Fox. But they did reiterate multiple casualties, injuries associated here in the shooting, with the suspect has been arrested. And that's really the extent of the information that we know here coming out of Barrow County, Georgia. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on this. Still a lot of police there, and they will continue throughout the day and evening. And once we get more information, we'll pass that
Okay,
along to you. The next major
I'm
update
back.
coming at
We
4 p.m.
will, let's
Eastern,
see.
right
How do
here
I get out of
on
this?
Live
Here.
Now from Fox. Let's take a 2-minute break. Stay right here with us.
Let's mute that for a minute. All right, you guys. So that is, if I'm sure most of you have already heard about it, a mass shooting at a high school in Barrow County, which is Winder, Georgia, where I actually have family. And so this has been absolutely terrifying. Thankfully, my family is not in that school. All the schools in the county are locked down, but there was another. Obviously, my family is local. There's another threat at a separate high school in the same county right after this one happened. No, Sidekick, thank God. My kids, we live in Alabama now, so my kids aren't there, but it's been awful. My sister said it sounds like a war zone, all the sirens and stuff coming through constantly. This is crazy. If y'all hear my kids, please excuse them. It's nap time and they're refusing to go to sleep. Brooklyn is home from school sick, but my sister was going to actually go pick my nephew up after all this, and they've sent an email saying, don't even come get them. We've got the schools locked down. They're not allowed to leave until they're ready to dismiss the school. So, hey, Snake. Let me say hey to everybody while we're doing nothing. Hindsight and Michelle. Hey, Emery and Bella, Dorothy, Scott, Barbarossa, Sidekick, Boucher Streets. Hopefully y'all are having a good day. I know I started early, but I didn't expect the press conference to come on so quick. Hey, Regina and Pittsburgh Nurse and Janet. And I know y'all dang sure ain't used to seeing me on this early. But my schedule is shifting around with kids going to school and all that mess. Hey, Mothership. No, Emory, Grady is actually a hospital that someone was lighted to from the high school. They've not really said anything about the other school, but my family is local, so that's where that's coming from. Hey, crazy nurse. Hang on, let me go deal with this kid before he kicks a hole in my wall. Okay, I'm back. Crazy Nurse might actually know a little bit about Grady, or if any of y'all live in the Georgia area, I'm sure you know Grady. It's one of the better hospitals, I believe, in Georgia. Oh, Lord. I don't know what that was. Hey, Allison. Oh, yes, we will. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Here where my grandkids go, they're on lockdown all day. Outside is another story. Yeah, well, Janet, these schools have a system where you have to ring in and they have to unlock the doors for you to get in, like 2 sets of doors. And I believe it was a kid. The locals are saying 3 students were involved. 1 was unalived by the police officers, 1 unalived himself, and the 3rd was the suspect they got. But, you know, when things happen, rumors run rampant. So don't quote me on that 100% yet, because I'm not really sure. That's just what I've been hearing. We have in my mom's neighborhood high school kids that go there, and they were posting screenshots of their kids' conversations, sending them back that they were sending them. That's absolutely terrifying. So I texted my sister and I was like, please go get my nephew out of the school. And he's only in pre-K, but golly, that I was just like, I would be at that school waiting for that door to open and I would snatch my kid and get out of there. That's, oh God, I can't. This is not why, but reasons like this is why I teach my children. This sounds so heartless, and I swear I don't mean for it to be. I teach them to be nice even to the ones that, like, to everybody at school, because you just never know. This world is so crazy. If they're nice to that one person, it could save their life. That person could say, hey, you know, that they were nice to me. One of my sisters said that Fox said 4 p.m. for more information. More information will come. That the students on the ground said it happened in a freshman classroom. That's just awful. That's how it is. Plus, they have local police as security. Yeah. I don't know about the security. I'm sure that that school has security because that's not, parts of that county aren't necessarily the best, but you know, I know there's, like, my mom's lived out there. My family has for a long time, so I know parts of just Winder itself are pretty rough. It's so scary. I know JLR and I think Pascal are covering this. I don't expect a ton of people to be over here, which is fine. I've been watching the Facebook pages and their X, but I haven't seen anything on here yet. I obviously probably will not be here until 4 o'clock, but I can come back because my kids will be getting home from school and the babies are absolutely insane right now. Barbara Rose said, really does. Hey, Nicole. Yes, I pulled up Fox News because I don't have cable, and I was out trying to get T-shirts paid for Brooklyn for school, and I couldn't send it with her at school today because she's homesick. So we had to go out, and I just pulled up Fox News on my phone and was listening to it. Between that and my family messaging, updating everything. Hey, Jody Ann. Yeah, Dorothy, I knew he was, but not some people don't care for him. But I know JLR's live about it too, so that's probably where a lot of people are. Sidekick, I don't know what's wrong with kids doing this, but it's disgusting. I will never understand it. That's what I was telling my family. I said, imagine being those parents that can't get to their kids because they're sending kids home on buses now if their parents can't get to them. So these kids are going to have to sit on a bus, go home by themselves, and think about what's happening all by themselves. What, like, you know, I couldn't, that just made me get, like, choked up when I was talking to them about it. I couldn't imagine my high school kid going home and sitting there by themselves to contemplate what just happened at school. I couldn't do it. I'm sure school will be, I know it'll probably be closed for the rest of the week at least. Hey, Steven's Adventure. It's terrifying. I don't know. Thinking about it made me want to go get my kids out of school, and we're hours away from it, but it'll make us all hug our kids a little tighter tonight. It is sad, Steven's Adventure. It's awful. I couldn't, like, my daughter's in 7th grade, and I just couldn't imagine my young children mentally having to deal with something like that. Hey, RJ. Nicole, I know that's what I was saying too to my family. Like, imagine being these parents that they're just showing up at school because that's what they were told to do, and they have no idea. Okay, Regina. Are the parents maybe not as involved in their kids' lives? That this has to get fixed. Sidekick, that's. Oops, sorry, y'all. You're going to hear my phone go off. Let me turn the volume down. Tablets are raising a lot of kids now, I think. Parents trying to be kids' friends instead of the parent. That's what it is. Steven, that's exactly what I said. These are the reasons why I want to homeschool my kids. And I've told them if schools get any worse, they're out. I will put them in homeschool. The parents are being told to stay away from the school for I don't know, RJ. They had them all lined up. They wouldn't let them obviously get in the school parking lot, but the parents were lining up, walking to the school, getting them. Yeah, Boucher, I didn't realize that. Well, I have it pulled up on my phone. Hey, Shandy B. Here comes one of them. What are you doing? What are you doing? Do you want to say hi? Come here. Then you have to go lay down, okay?
Hi.
Say hello.
Hello.
Can you tell them what your name is?
Shoot Robert.
Rup, rup.
Shoot Robert.
Rup, rup.
Shoot Robert.
I struggle with what they practice at schools for live. They teach my grandson to hide in place. I want them to learn the school grounds, get the heck out of the building, not sitting ducks. Yeah, I agree. It made me sick when they said,
Hello. My name's
okay,
Bubba.
you have to be quiet, okay? It made me sick, them saying, oh, well, the schools practice this all the time now. Like, that's ridiculous. They shouldn't have to be practicing something like that. We practiced tornado drills and fire drills when we were in school, not drills like that. God. Oh, okay, RJ. I might have missed that part, or I was trying to deal with kids and eat lunch and run errands, so I may have missed some of it. These kids, I swear. I went live because they're supposed to be taking naps. Do you see how well that's happening? Look, they're saying hi to you, Brooklyn.
Hey. Mama, I need friends.
My friends are all right here. You can't see them, but they can see you. Is that cool?
Mom, you can't see me. Mama, look at that doggy.
Yeah, Shanny B's puppy. Thank you, sidekick. Let's see if they have. Oh gosh, quit that.
Mama, may I put my hair on? Mom, get we do it. So do this
Okay.
do it.
Excuse me. Thank y'all. She does. She's not feeling good, which is why she's home from school, unfortunately. Monday night, she didn't sleep good, so I had to keep her home yesterday to not have to. Hey, Darcy, to not have to deal with the meltdowns. And then today, or she went to bed with a cough last night, and it just got worse, so I had to keep her home again.
My kids are serious.
You need to go lay down. Okay? Watch my cord. Tell your brother to stop it.
Sylvia, stop. Look at Sono's out there. Mommy, look at Sono's dog.
Let's see. I'm trying to see if I can find anything else. I don't know what. Let's see which one. She did, Emery. She said hey to Darcy.
Hey, Darcy.
Stop.
Hello, Darcy.
Fox 5 News has something. I don't know what we're watching. Ooh, Brooklyn, please go lay down. Oops. Good Lord, child. Let's see what this one's saying.
Right now. So I'm so fortunate and so glad that you were able to get reunited, guys. Thank you so much. So you're just watching these moments right now unfold of reunions
Hey,
with parents and
Coco.
children. But want to have you guys listen to a couple of these interviews that we got of some
Shanny B,
parents
they've
and just
not
what their
said,
reaction is as
but
they're waiting to get
what
reunited with
the
their
locals
children.
I know
I was completely
are
terrified because I didn't
saying
know what was
it
happening,
was
but it's a
3
relief now that,
students, but I'm
we
not
found them,
sure
but I know there were
entirely. You know
injuries
how
and
things are,
casualties,
rumors
so
are.
I don't know how many or who they are yet.
Let me go get them situated again, and I'll let y'all listen to this, and
So,
I'll be right back.
Again, just a really emotional, raw emotion
No, man,
from
I
so
don't
many
know.
of these
Holy
parents
cow.
coming through here. And again, we are back out here over a mile away from that school right now where all of the traffic is being diverted. Roads still blocked by the Department of Public Safety as well. Several units responding here. We saw the last one that I saw was from a different county, was Jefferson County Mobile Command Unit was responding to the school as well. So that just gives you some perspective, guys, of what we're seeing here. Still a very fluid, chaotic situation. There are cars literally in every single direction parked on the sides of the road right now as parents are trying to get reunited with their children. So that just also gives you kind of a perspective as we're over a mile from the school and we saw these cars, 10 minutes before we got here, we saw all of the cars, all of the chaos and the commotion that was happening here. Tom and Lindsay.
Brooke, the parents that walk by you clutching a small child, toddler perhaps, so we're presuming they were from the Early Learning Center, but I also wondered if you could kind of fill in and contextualize for us the level of anxiety or frustration or, panic on the minds of parents trying to access the campus area. Are they frustrated that they're not able to drive closer, or understanding given the situation that's unfolding?
You know, people are so nice here. I don't know. It's a small community, and you can always tell when you get to these communities is that they're so tight knit. They're so kind, so understanding. The parents that we've talked to have been incredibly understanding of the situation. We've been waved to by people. We've talked to a number of parents in this area who just understand that law enforcement right now has to make sure this scene is safe before they can get to their children. And a lot of them we've found that just have no problem walking the mile or so down the road to get reunited with their children. So the woman that you just saw clutching her child, that 2-year-old, was from the Early Learning Center across the street. And we asked her, like, what's going through your mind, and just the reaction of something that you see on the news, and you see this happening in other communities, and you don't think it's your own community, and when it does, it just hits you so incredibly hard. And a community like this one, Winder Barrow, very tight knit. Everybody knows each other here.
Thank you, sir.
So it really does give you that kind of perspective of just how difficult this was. But she was very understanding of, you know, law enforcement has a job to do, so they were happy to park here, wait for her fiance to come back
Gerald
with her
are saying
2-year-old child,
4.
especially
Where
knowing
did it go?
that
4 unalive and
he's
3
safe. And
30
obviously, it
injured.
may be a
Oh my
different
God.
situation if you're still waiting to hear from your loved one and unsure. But from the kind of indication that I've gotten from parents here is they're very incredibly understanding of the situation. I know that this is also a
I have a
remote
parrot in the
enforcement
back
in
of
this
the house.
area.
Y'all
Again,
can't hear
I'll
me.
describe for those of you just joining us. We were coming up here on 316, seeing all of the law enforcement activity passing us. It was one after another after another. It was, I would say, more than 24 or so law enforcement agencies, Georgia State Patrol troopers, Department of Public Safety, Gwinnett County police officers, Barrow County sheriff's officers, from surrounding areas, that it all hands on deck as this was unfolding. That's what we saw when we were coming up here. And it really gives you that perspective of, wow, this is something that is really serious that's happening. And it's hitting this community hard. I think there's still a level of shock that people are experiencing right now, as you can imagine, by just what's going on here. And it's still very much fluid.
And Brooke, something else that I want to point out, this is obviously happening at Appalachia High School, and law enforcement says the situation was contained to that school. But this school is surrounded by other schools, and that's why we're seeing that mother with a very young child. And Fox 5's Eric Perry showed us a few minutes ago, there's also a middle school right there. And that's also why we're seeing so much traffic in the area, right?
Oh my God, can y'all imagine?
Yeah, that's
I
exactly
didn't
right,
realize the
Lindsay.
middle
And when I
school was
spoke
right
to you
there
guys
too.
45 minutes ago or so, we were initially at Winder Barrow High School, and the law enforcement emergency was out there. It looked similar to what we've seen out here. We saw
That's the school that locals were saying has
fire trucks out there.
Sorry. My internet completely went out. And then I tried to hook to hotspot and it wouldn't work either. I don't know what was happening. Hey, Ruby. Hi, Dawn. It went out. It's your fault. It went out as soon as you came in here. CNN is reporting 4 unalive and 30 injured now, but no other responsible news. Okay. Oh, God. This is so awful. I cannot. I just don't understand. Is that it? Yeah. Y'all excuse my kid, okay? She's a little crazy. I'll turn this
Angela
on.
Proctor
But
is at Grady Memorial Hospital, where one of the victims was airlifted for trauma purposes, and the GBI there, as you can see on your screen, responding to Grady as investigators try to piece together exactly what happened. Angelique speculating, perhaps, just given her
Thank you,
experience in
Cindy.
covering these types of situations, that perhaps seeing the agents entering the hospital is a good sign that they may be starting their information gathering process right now. The sheriff also reporting that they do have a suspect in custody and that they've asked for assistance from the GBI and other agencies, and that there's a news conference scheduled for today at 4 o'clock where we're going to learn a whole lot more information.
And our reporters, of course, have been gathering what they can live on the scene as well. Within the last 30, 40 minutes, we spoke with Fox 5's Brittany Edney. She reported that she heard from a parent who had a child in the classroom where this allegedly happened. That parent told her it was a 9th grade classroom and a student and a teacher were both involved. Of course, we're still waiting to get this verified from law enforcement and from the school district as well. But these are the reports that we're getting from our crews on the ground there as well. They've been seeing the large law enforcement presence, the parents coming to collect their students.
Hey,
and just
Deborah.
because we have mentioned these neighboring schools so much, I just want to reiterate what we learned from the Winder Police Department as well, which is that even though these neighboring schools are impacted and that there's an increased presence from law enforcement, all the students, are safe out there, that they're in lockdown as a precautionary measure, and that right now the priority is getting these students back with their families. So that is priority number one.
I want to get you back out.
How
now
locked down
live
are
to
they
Brittany
actually,
Edney,
though?
on the
Being
campus of the
sitting
high
ducks
school
in a
there,
football
right behind
field.
you, Brittany. You have new information.
Yeah,
for us?
9th grader RJ. That's just
Yeah, I just spoke with a
mind
sophomore
blowing.
student. She said she was in the hallway when all of this happened, and she kind of described the chaos as it unfolded. She says at first they thought that this could have been a drill. They heard a lot of commotion, a lot of yelling, a lot of movement, and she says sometimes that they have similar incidents like this that are drill. And then by the time that she realized that this was actually happening, that's when kind of the terror sank in. She says that a teacher, her math teacher, was actually in one of the classrooms. Also, she describes it, she believes probably unaware about what was going on, came to the door of that classroom, and when that door opened, she says that that teacher was shot. Now, this, of course, not yet confirmed for officials. This is what we are hearing from these students who were there in the hallway as all of this unfolded. She says right now she doesn't know how her teacher is doing, but what she saw was, this particular staff member on the ground, laying in blood. And she says this has just been extremely horrific and a terrifying experience. She says that this particular person, this instructor, is beloved and a really great educator. She's described him as the most chill teacher yet, and she just hopes that he is okay.
Yes, Coco,
She
they've
says
got
the
them. Oh
students,
my God.
love this particular individual, and
They've got
she
them
doesn't know
locked
what
down,
exactly
so
happened, how that
nobody
person
can
is
leave.
doing. But if something did happen fatally, she says this would be devastating for all the students who love and care so much about
Oh, I feel like
this
I shouldn't even be
teacher.
showing
I
this.
did
This is
ask,
awful.
are there metal detectors in the school? She said no. She also described, as you know, this being a smaller town, a more closer and tight-knit community where things like this just don't really happen. She says this has all been extremely shocking and surprising. Right now, she's uniting with her family and really just kind of trying to process everything that
It
happened
is
and waiting
ridiculous,
to
she
hear
said.
from other students.
Yeah,
as far as
RJ, the
how
aerial
they're
view did
doing,
look like the
guys.
football field was
This
kind
is
of far away.
unfortunately part of the ecosystem that we now sort of operate in as
But it
parents.
looks like
when you
it's
send your
behind
kids
another
off to
school instead of the
a
high
lot of the
school.
parents and students are required to bring the clear backpacks too. In addition to passing through the metal detectors, which you say don't exist on this campus, the clear backpacks, do you see that out there as well? Or are students just attending with the regular backpacks on them?
That's a great question. Now, from the students that I have spoken with and seen kind of walking
Do
through,
any
there
of
haven't
the
been
school,
that many,
does
but the ones I
anybody's
have
school
seen, I
actually
have not yet
enforce
seen a clear backpack. That
clear
does not,
backpacks?
however,
Ours
mean
don't.
that that's not a policy or that that doesn't exist, but I
I
have
don't
not
know of
yet
any school that
seen
actually
that.
does. I've
But again,
heard
as
of
we
it,
were
but
kind of just
I've not ever
discussing,
seen a school
that
that actually
student says,
does.
there are no metal detectors here. But she said, as she described, that there are frequent drills. And that's where a little bit of confusion kind of came today, is because at first they said, oh, was this a drill or is this something more serious? And she kind of described her and her classmates' experience as really just a lot of the unknown, and then people kind of coming into that shooting as they tried to figure
Y'all don't do it,
out,
Emery?
was this a real situation? And tragically and unfortunately, it turned out to be true. She said, of course, this is something you kind of just only
Stephen,
see
your state
in
does
the
it?
movies, or when you turn on the news. It's
Well,
just
you're
not
the
something, she
first one
said,
I've ever
she
seen that
expects
actually has
ever
had to do
happen
clear
to
backpacks.
you.
I mean, I don't
And
think it's a
also,
bad
especially
idea
again,
by
this
no
being such a
means, but
smaller town where
I've not ever
a lot
actually
of
seen
violence
schools
doesn't
enforce
typically
it.
break out in these types of situations.
Brittany, you had mentioned that earlier you spoke with a parent who said that this happened in a 9th grade classroom. The student you just spoke to was a sophomore. Is it clear if this was like on the same hallway, or if this was a class with multiple grades in it?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, Dawn, the
That,
only
and
clear
I'm glad you
backpacks
brought
I've
that up,
seen
because I
is
do want to clarify. We do not yet
enforced at
know, or I do
stadiums
not know, rather, if that classroom that had the
and
9th grader in it who
games like we
experienced
said.
seeing a
Can I
student
kick it?
leave the classroom and come back in with a gun, if that was the
Allegedly,
same situation.
it was a
Just
9th grade
as how
student,
they
I
have
believe.
described it, it doesn't sound like it is, but at this time,
Tootie!
we're still waiting to
I
kind of
love
hear
you
from
too.
law enforcement as far as what happened, and really give a confirmation on how many people were shot, were injured, and a number on the casualties.
Don't
But
have
from what
school-age
they have
kids,
described,
mine
it
are
doesn't sound like
adults, but
they
I'm
are
sure
one
they
and the same. So it
probably
kind of sounds like you
do.
have
Oh, okay,
the
true, sir.
teacher who was shot in the classroom when a student came back in, per these students, and then also
Well, I
a
have
10th grader
kids in
describing being
3
a hall
different
over,
grades, and
and then
not a single
watching
one of
everything
them
unfold, and
enforced
then
clear
having a math
backpacks.
teacher come to the door of a
Slightly more
classroom along
difficult,
that
but
hall,
definitely still
try to check things
doable
out,
if they really
and
want to
then
take
getting
one to
shot. And
school. I don't
again,
know.
she just really described
That would
the
stop it from
trauma that
happening.
she
Yeah, Nicole,
experienced
I
as
agree. They
watching
would
this
just probably
beloved
put it in their pants,
math teacher just
unfortunately.
lay there in that
You
hallway
do. If you were
after
laying down,
getting
you wouldn't got
shot.
hurt. So lay down.
Definitely,
Tootie, it
especially
is
just
very
these kids being so
heartbreaking.
young. This is something you don't expect to see in real life. And right now, there's a lot of emotion swirling around. And as these students come and try to, wait to get connected
Go
with
lay
their
down.
family, of course, I also spoke with a parent who says, she just is really concerned about her middle school and elementary school students who are on a
Mothership,
lockdown.
I
She
think
can't talk to
all
them yet. And
schools should
even
have
though she says
metal
she didn't have
detectors.
a child in the high
I'm in
school, it
Houston.
still
Asked a few
is
people
just
know
a
clear
traumatizing
backpacks around
experience for the
here,
entire community.
only
And she really
at
just want to, get
venues
those
and
kids, hold them,
stadiums.
talk to them, and as a parent, try
No,
to
man, that's
describe and
scary.
explain,
But I
if
agree, they
she
need
even
to. I
can,
think all schools
what
need metal
happened here
detectors,
today, and
honestly.
just be there as a support system for those kids. Lindsay.
Well, our thoughts and our prayers are certainly with the
And Winder is a
teacher
very
who
small
presumably
town.
was
Like
reportedly, though unconfirmed, shot.
compared to
Brittany,
most towns,
and
Winder is very
certainly
small.
all the other victims. I want you to stick with us for a second because, and I don't know if you kind of gathered this as you're walking toward the area, but you have Appalachia High School behind
My
you.
daughter is not
You have,
allowed to carry her.
Bethlehem
She can
Middle
carry her
School off to
backpack
the left of you, and
on
then
the
we saw
bus and to her
in
locker,
Brooks'
but they're not
live
allowed
shot, a
to carry
parent
them during
walking
the
with a
day. They
child
have
in
to tote their
arms.
stuff.
An elementary school, Yargo Elementary, which is also down the road there a piece. All of them presumably put on lockdown while all of this was going on.
all schools are on lockdown
Yeah,
until
that's correct, and
dismissal
that's what that
in that
parent did
county.
confirm with me. However, I just
Not
spoke to
just
her
the
about
ones that
5
you
minutes
mentioned, by
ago,
the
and she
way.
said she has not been
At
able
least
to
the
get
ones
her
really close I
children,
know
one
are.
who is in
Let me
middle
not say
school,
all
another
of them because I
elementary
don't know
school student. She said
exactly,
she has
but
not been able to
most
get
of them
them yet,
probably are.
but we have been seeing, students trickle out. So I'm not sure what the official status is or if they are being released, just a few at a time, because we're not
Stevens,
giving, an
I
official
think all
school
schools
district
need them
yet
'cause
as to what that kind of process looks like. So she's still waiting
but
personally
you
for
know, my
her 2
mom
kids.
said,
However,
she's like, I
we are
remember
seeing a
when
steady stream,
I was in
small
school,
albeit,
people
of
had
parents,
them in their vehicles
walking
all
with
the
their
time. It
kids. But
wasn't an
as she
issue, and now
described,
all
I
of a
mean, we've
sudden,
got a row of schools here, and that kind of just adds to the response and the congestion in this area. Because for us to get here, you are looking at hundreds of cars. It lines so far. I looked on my car. It was about a
let me
1.5
share this
mile
link so
distance
they
of
don't
how far out cars are parked from,
try to get me.
parents and loved ones of students and faculties, etc.,
This is
who are trying to
Fox
make their way here.
Local.
You got to walk about a mile and a half just to get, anywhere close to this school. That's how far those cars are lined, and that's kind of just the
All of your
the
schools have them
presence
too,
from
Juicer?
parents. That's not even law enforcement. I mean, that's been tremendous as well. I've never seen anything like this in any type of Metro Atlanta story that
What
I've
is
been
MI?
here for years.
Michigan?
This
Missouri?
response has truly been
I don't
tremendous,
know.
and you've got just multiple agencies, jurisdictions, everyone working together. The presence is really just mind-boggling. I mean, this area is just full of
2 days.
probably
What
1,000,
is
maybe
what is
2
today? Thursday?
vehicles, because you're just seeing an overwhelming response from those who are trying to
Or
help out
Wednesday?
and those who are
I
just
don't
again
even
trying
know.
to make it here and connect with those
Yeah, 2
kids.
days
And so,
after they came back from the holiday.
Brittany, you've been
It's
able to
just
give us
crazy.
perhaps the clearest picture and the most compelling picture of what's happened so far, of what you've been hearing from parents as reported by their students. And I think it's useful and instructive, even though we're waiting for that 4 o'clock news conference to sort of confirm these details, exactly what those students told their parents happened this morning. Can you go over that again?
Darcy, I
Let's talk
fully
about this and let it
believe
unfold a little bit, because I
they
want to
should
actually
be.
start with the
Hold
sophomore
these
girl
parents
that I spoke
accountable
with.
for their children's
She
actions
is
and
amazingly, I just have to commend her, composed and
okay,
in
Michigan.
sharing her
Sorry, not
experience.
sorry.
She did
I would
want
get my
everyone
kids.
to
I
know
wouldn't
about it. I
juicer
asked her, I said, look, do
exactly.
you feel comfortable speaking? She says, yes.
Darcy,
I
I
want everyone to
fully
know not
believe
only
if
what
they
happened,
held
but
parents
also about
accountable for
this
this stuff, they
beloved
would
teacher. And what she
pay more
described
attention to their
again was
kids. Yes, the
hearing a lot
Crumblies.
of
Thank you,
noise
Don.
and commotion. In the hallway, there was a lot of uncertainty. They really didn't know what was
Where
going
are
on
these
at first. And
kids?
she says,
Kids
they
in ninth
actually have a
grade
lot
can't
of
get a hold of stuff like
drills
that.
and different
I mean,
situations
they
here
can
at
if
the
parents
school.
aren't
And it
putting things
being,
away like
again,
they're
kind of
supposed
towards
to.
the beginning of the school year. She says at first a lot of the kids
We
were like,
hunted
oh,
and
you know
had
what?
pew-pews in
Maybe
our
this is just a
cars,
drill. And
and
I didn't
nobody
even
ever
get caught up on the
did
fact that we
this.
were having a drill
I
today.
think
And
it's
then,
from
after more commotion
these
and people started
messing
running
with
to
our
the
kids'
hallway,
heads
that's
and
when
the
the picture
lack of
really
real
became
parenting
clear
instead of
that something
computers
was going
parenting
on.
them. Nomad, I
Something
couldn't
was
agree better.
happening. And then she
I
described
couldn't
how
agree more. I
she
mean,
was one hallway over, and then they started moving, and that at one point, that is when a math teacher who she described as just
that what do
beloved
they
and
call it?
again,
The
quote, the most chill
gentle parenting.
teacher and caring
You have to have
educator
gentle
that
kids
they
to
had. She
gentle
says
parent, and
he's a
I do
personal
not.
favorite. She
So that
said
doesn't
that
happen
he
around
came
here.
to the door of the classroom and kind of like her was trying to figure out what was
The
going
parents
on.
can't
Was this
always know if
commotion?
kids have weapons. They can
She
get them
thinks
anywhere.
I just want
Nomad,
to
you're
add,
not
this is
wrong.
new as well. She says that she
Not at
believes
all.
that he's a hero. Just for being the fact that if there was just say a fight that was just simply breaking out, he wanted to go and check on it and figure out what it was and break it up, just to care about the student's safety of not mattering whether or not this was a shooting or not, but just to break up the fight. She says, that's the type of teacher he is, to always just make sure
Yeah,
kids
that's
are
what,
okay.
you know
So
what?
she says that when
That's
that
what I told
teacher came to the
my
door
siblings. I was like,
of
I'd be
that
sitting
classroom,
outside of that
that is when
school
he was
with
shot.
my own
She said
protection,
that
waiting.
he, again, and this
Because
may be a
I
little
might
bit
be
graphic,
slightly
just heads up
crazy,
for
but
our
I am
families at home, but that
extremely
she saw
protective
him
of my
laying
kids.
there
And
on the floor
God,
at that kind of entrance of the classroom, meeting the hallway, in
I
blood,
feel
and it was
if a
a
parent has
terrifying
been
experience.
neglectful in letting a
She
child
says
have
she doesn't
a
know how
weapon or
he was
access to a
doing, but
weapon
that the
and it can be
injuries
proven, then
definitely
yes,
did
they
look
should absolutely
severe,
be
and
held
that's
accountable.
causing a lot of concern. She
Yes,
says for
Don.
her
Well,
and
you know, with the
all of her
Crumblies,
other
they
classmates, because
they
again,
bought it
they
for
love this
him,
teacher
so
just so
that
much, and she's really having a hard time
that's why why they
insisting that
got
this
in trouble, I
happened.
think.
Again, describing it as just being kind of like a scene out of a movie. Now, that is what we are hearing from a sophomore who was in a hallway. And the last thing that I do
No,
want to add from
Juicer,
her
listen.
experience was that
Me
she
and my
said
Jeep would be
that
jumping
there
every
was a
curve I had
tremendous
to jump
police
to get to my
response
kids. I'm
when
not
they
playing
arrived.
around.
She says that they were just running through the
I said it back
hallway.
then and I stand
She
by
said
it.
that one
Those
of her
dang video
friends actually got
games
just yanked and
don't
pulled into a classroom when
connect
this was
playing with
happening as
reality when
well.
they grow up killing
She
people
said,
in
and
these
that's really
games.
another
It
one
all
of those
started when
key
they.
moments
Emery,
when
I
she realized that something
swear
has
I have
happened
said the same
because
thing
people
for
were
so
yanking
long,
students
and
in.
people would
So
tell me I'm
that also
crazy.
being a new tidbit right
And
there
Mass, they try to teach
about
students to
others
be
just trying to pull students in.
peacekeepers. I
You
taught
know,
my
we hear
ex's
a
child to
lot
ignore
about
that and
these
how to
various
defend herself.
drills that schools will
RJ,
do.
exactly.
First thing
You
you
know
hear
what I've
about
taught
is
my
when they go
kids?
into
Let
the
me mute this
lockdown,
for
you
a
know, the
minute.
securing of the classroom. But
I don't
from
think
her
she's really
description,
talking about it.
how it sounded in that
We'll just turn
hallway
it
near
down
at
a little.
least one of the
I taught my
students'
kids, like, you better not start it, but you
she
better
says
finish it or
that
you're getting your ass
her
whooped when
friend,
you get home, too.
another student,
That's how I was
literally just
raised, and that's how
yanked
my
and
kids
pushed
will be
someone from the
raised. Don't
classroom.
start
So
it, but you better finish
what
it.
it sounds like from these student stories that they're sharing is that there was a
That
lot
was
of
the early
blood feeling
2000s.
from those inside the
I
school,
agree with
inside those
Nomad. Not all
classrooms,
kids get
trying
weapons
to
from
get
their
those other
parents.
students to
Some
safety,
find
yanking
them
them
on the
in.
street and their parents
As
have
all
no
of this
clue.
was
Kids can be
happening,
very sneaky.
we
Oh,
heard
they
from
definitely can be
a
sneaky.
father. He says that his
My
son,
kids,
he's a freshman,
y'all know
let's
we're
kind of
big
go to that
hunters,
story
but
as well. Another
my
just
kids have been raised around them. They
account of what has happened and unfolded here at the school. I do want to
just set it on the table and go
story
lay
once
down.
again and say we are still waiting
They know how
for
they
official
work. My
confirmation
children
that the
have their
students made
own.
it through
Obviously, they're
with
locked
these
away where they
students
can't just play
and
with them all
for
the time,
their
but
parents. And this
we've
gentleman
had to
told me
teach
that
our
his
children
freshman
the
daughter was
safety of
inside a
them
classroom
because
and that
they're
a
around them
student
so
had left
often.
that classroom, was gone for a few minutes, and then later returned,
I
came
was
in,
scared of my
and
mom
then
and brothers, so I
shot
had to
our
fight.
teacher. What's not
Well, I
clear
didn't
at
have
this
brothers. I was the
point
oldest of
that
4
this
girls, or
situation
am the
by
oldest
that
of 4
father,
girls,
if
but
that was connected to the math teacher. Honestly,
I knew my
what I've
stepdad
heard, it
wasn't
doesn't
playing. If
sound like
I
it.
would have got beat up
Again,
at school,
before
he
we
would have whooped my
make
ass.
specific connections there, we do want to wait for official confirmation.
Oh
But it
no,
kind of sounds
Darcy.
like from what the students were describing, these are two separate incidents.
It's okay, it
We
happens.
have a student coming back into that classroom and shooting the teacher on one account, and then separately at a hallway, a teacher coming to check out what was going on, and then
RJ, I hope you're doing good. I
does
haven't seen
sound
you live in
like
a
there was at
while.
least two separate scenes kind of unfolding at one section of the school
In
at
those
least. But
instances,
of course,
I think
we are
parents should be
still
held
waiting
accountable. My
for the sheriff's
son
office
had
and
his
other
own
responders to officially
long
release
pew
information. I
pew
mean,
since
they
he
are
was like
out there full
13. He
force
keeps them in
working
his room,
on
but I
confirmation.
parent
But
my kids and they
as you can
know
imagine, a very
to
hectic
not.
scene.
Yeah,
And as we've
exactly.
described to you, us and the
That's why
federal
parents
crews, I
need to
mean,
be
the
of their
response out there has
kids'
just been tremendous. And
butts.
even just getting anywhere near the
Jet
school, it
lag!
would take you about a 1.5-mile
What they're
walk, a
doing,
trek
what
to
are they
get out here
doing,
just
what are they
because of all
talking,
the
who are
families
they
that are
talking
there,
to?
but
Parents
also the
nowadays are,
responders that are lined up trying to not
sorry
only
y'all, too
keep
busy
the process
being
of
involved.
seeing, but
Yeah.
also kind
Girl,
of coordinate
listen,
if
let me
and
get these kids
when
in the bed and I'll
families
tell you in a minute.
unite, and also just support this county, because this is just something, as that one sophomore described, as something that happens in the movies or that you see on the national news, but you never think will happen, especially in this smaller community, this smaller, tight-knit town.
Well, again, Brittany, just such compelling reporting there as to what exactly happened. Thank you. Again, our thoughts are with that teacher who was presumably the victim of a gunshot, and any other victims that were involved there. But it seems one of the common denominators in the reporting of both you and Kevin Stewart, who also spoke to a parent, is that some way, somehow, a faculty member was involved here. We know that at least one victim was transported to Grady Memorial Hospital with traumatic injuries, and we're just not sure if that indeed was the faculty member who we're talking about. But we know Judd Smith, the sheriff out there, briefed reporters and said that there are multiple victims. Joined now by Fox 5 anchor Christine Spiro up here on the set. Christine, on what has been a very upsetting and alarming day up at Appalachia High School up in Barrow County, where we have multiple gunshot victims at this high school, which all of this unfolding at about 20 after 10 this morning.
And I want to share, because I listened to the entire press conference with Sheriff Judge Smith, the Barrow County Sheriff, and I just want to share some of the information that he passed along. He initially is saying he understands the urgent need to get information out to the public quickly. Of course, they want to get information out to everyone on what happened here, if there is an active threat, etc. But he emphasized that it is important
Okay, I'm back.
for them
Sorry.
to do the work that they need behind the
Anyways,
scenes.
what I was saying is I check my kids' phones constantly, just randomly.
Right before they release
Check their
this
deleted
information to
stuff,
the
you
public.
know,
We
the
always talk
whole
about in the news business,
the whole
rather
thing.
be right than first.
They're not
Right?
getting
You
away with
want to
nothing.
get the information correctly
Oh, you
out to
work
the
a different
public
shift,
the
okay.
first time, so you don't have to backtrack down the road. And so that is why he didn't
I was
answer
raised around
any
pew
media
pews, and my
questions
neighborhood
after
was
this brief
bad, but my
news
dad
conference today. There was
drilled
only
pew
one
pew safety.
reporter who shouted out a
Yeah.
question: were there any
I grew
casualties
up with
here at
them
Appalachian
too
High School? Because
because
that is what's being
my
reported.
stepdad had
He
them.
would
My
only
dad, being a
say
police
he's
officer,
not going to answer that question.
I was
There
raised
were
around
a
them,
lot of injuries,
and
is
now
how he
my
phrased
kids
it.
have been raised
So
around
he's
them.
not even touching on what is being reported out there, that there are casualties, even though in a press conference earlier
With my daughter being in
earlier
a
today, they did say
wheelchair, the school asked me
casualties are
how
reported. They did
I
not
feel they should
specify
handle an active
how many, but there
shooter
of
drill
course
with
are
her. I was
multiple injuries
speechless.
as well. Just want to
Not a
emphasize
conversation
from
I
the
ever. Oh my God,
law
Nicole.
enforcement standpoint, the importance
I'm
of
glad they
them to get
consulted
this
me on it, but
information right the first
just
time.
And so
unfortunate
much
that
of it
it's a
coming from
conversation that has to be
seemingly every
had.
direction.
Yeah,
Want to get out to
I
Fox
couldn't
10
imagine. And then I show up to the
live
school
on that
today,
road where so many
and
parents have been
to drop
streaming into the
money off for
campus
Brooklyn.
to try to retrieve their children.
There's
Kevin,
3 little kids just
obviously the
running
parents
down the
extremely
sidewalk by
concerned,
themselves. I was like,
upset,
I sat there
and full
watching
of
them. Like, is
anxiety
there
after what transpired
not
this
a
morning there at
teacher
Appalachian
around
High.
here? No teacher in sight. I don't know where they came from, what they were doing.
Up and down. To be honest,
The
most touching interview
which terrifies
I had with a
me
young man, 17 years old,
because mine
student
is a
here at
runner,
Appalachian High School.
and
Wasn't at school today. He was doing a
imagine
skip
I just
school,
oh
going to
my
a
God,
college event. He
I would
came here
lose my
looking
mind
for one of his
if I knew my
classmates.
kid was running
He
outside
was
by
clearly
herself with
very
2 other
broken up.
kids her age.
We talked to him, didn't show his face, and we're going to try to turn that sound around for you in a little bit. But he was clearly
Let me turn
very
this up a little
upset
bit, see what he's
because his
saying.
friend would not answer his texts, would not answer his phone calls. He was very concerned. In fact, I also had a chance to talk to a parent who went through a lot of that angst herself. She was trying to get a hold of her daughter, Melanie. Fortunately, she did get a hold of her, and we had a chance to talk with her. Take a listen.
Well, it was a lot of anxiety trying to be able to get in contact with Melanie, not being able to get a response from her, no phone calls, no text messages. Getting here, going to a football field, and then I see my daughter waving at me from up there, and then being able to hug my daughter and see her again. But it's a terrible feeling.
Is it the kid I was talking about? Okay. And so obviously a very touching situation there. We talked to her daughter as well, who was a sophomore here at Appalachian High School, and she told me about the drill situation. She said they've only gone through one drill that she can recall, and this was an opportunity to put that into action.
Hey, Dawson, girl.
First, they said
your
it was a
nephew
drill,
and his
then
wife.
they ended up saying it wasn't a
My
drill no more, and that
mom
it was
and
for real.
siblings
Next, you
live
know
out
it,
there
we heard people were
with
sending
my
messages to
nephews.
each other saying it's not a drill. It's an actual shooting. Be careful and stay safe. And then when I figured it out, I texted my mom. My mom had told me I love you, and I was scared because I was like,
Janet
what if I never
Dillion,
see
the
my
school
parents again?
counselor.
So I was
Well,
crying, trying to make sure I was
I'll
like
have time to
stay
watch
safe.
Brooklyn
I was
as she
scared,
gets
fighting.
out, and
Yeah,
make
it's
sure
a
she
scary
gets in. Once
situation.
she
Now,
gets
we
in the
never
fence,
know
I
what
know
we wake up to in the morning. And I
the
know
only
you're telling
place
us
she's
what
running
happened
once she
during the
gets in
course of
that
the
fence
day,
for
and
the
that was
school
one of
is the
those things that
playground, but she goes into
we
the
take for
class.
granted that you send your child off to school, they're coming back from the
Dawn, my
child
nephews are
saying,
okay.
I'll see you later,
They're,
Mom. I'll see you later, Dad.
thank God, not
And
in high
that
school.
family
They're
clearly
only
that was
in
going through their
he's
mind, trying to
Brooklyn's
figure
age.
out what's
So his
next?
school
I didn't
is
expect
really
this.
close to
And that is
the
a
high
story that
school,
we
but
expect to hear from a lot of people. And like I told you, I talked
no,
to that
my
17-year-old. Hopefully, we're going to be able to get
mom
that
and
sound
my
to you shortly, because that was
sisters, two of my sisters
really
live out that
brought
way.
it really home to heart. And I hope that young man
Even if
does
it was a
find his
trusted
good
kid
friend
sent to do a
shortly.
task
Back to
or
you guys.
being watched from a
All right,
distance,
Kevin,
anything can
thank you
happen.
so much.
Yeah,
And
Nicole, you're not kidding.
looking
Like,
at
there's
the Barrow
nobody
County Schools
sitting
District
outside
policy, I was wondering if there was a cell phone policy in
monitoring
place. We've been
the
reporting on
parking lot.
stories with schools issuing a ban in the sense that kids would have to put their cell phones away in a secured packet so they wouldn't have it during the school day. There does not appear to be that type of cell phone policy in place in Barrow County schools.
Oh, I
so
wish
it's
they'd
no
stop
surprise
showing
that
this.
students
This is
were
awful.
immediately able to text their parents, text each other when this was all going down as to what was
Listen,
happening in that moment. Because as
nobody
Brittany
will tell
was
my kid they
reporting,
can't have their
a
phone
lot of kids didn't
in the
understand
class from
thinking it
now
was
on.
a
I'm telling you
drill,
that.
thinking it
I'm not saying
wasn't
she needs to be
real, when
playing
they
on
soon
it
realized it
now,
very much
but
was a real
that's why
social
both of
And
my
that's where we've
children,
gotten some of the clearest
fourth
reporting
and seventh grade,
of
have cell
what
phones, so I
might have
with
happened
trackers
at
on
that
them, so I
school
know
today,
exactly where they're
short
at
of the
if
official
something
information
happens.
from the Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith, who held a news conference not too long ago, calling what happened there on campus today an evil thing, confirming there are multiple injuries, one of which was transported by Life Flight helicopter to Grady Memorial Hospital, where our Angelique Proctor is on the scene and saw GBI agents rushing into the hospital to try to information gather from
Yeah, Dawn, I
a
told I
victim who
messaged
is
my
there at
sister.
the
I was like,
hospital. There you
"Go
see the
get
agents
my nephew from the
there on
school."
the ground at
She said,
Grady,
"I can't.
entering the
They've got the
building
whole school
there.
locked down, and they're not letting us
And
check
that
them
they
out."
have a suspect in custody. That obviously that this was a rapidly evolving situation this morning when it broke out just after 10 o'clock, where you had local, state, and federal agencies swarming that campus really within a matter of minutes. And earlier in
GBI.
the afternoon, Christine, I referenced a Facebook post from back in 2022 from school resource officers up in Barrow County at this very high school going through a drill to prepare for an eventuality exactly like this, to respond to a shooting, God forbid, when and if it happened, and today it did.
And how many times do we cover stories like that? It seems mundane, right, to say that these departments are doing these drills, and now we see today how necessary those drills and practice sessions are.
Sure,
Let's
yeah.
go out
Well,
live
thankfully,
to our
his
Eric Perry, who
school,
is
I don't
also
want
on
to
the
tell y'all
ground,
exactly how far
who
it
is
is because
speaking to someone
there's
here to
weirdos
hopefully give us
that
some more information
watch,
on what
but
happened today. Eric?
it's
Yeah, Christine,
not
Tom,
right
we've
on
been
top
following the
of
parents
the
as
high
they've
school
come
where
down.
this
We've
happened,
also seen
thankfully.
more flooding coming in from different law enforcement agencies.
I
Of
remember
course,
being
my
able to have a
perspective is
pager in high school,
outside,
but that was
but I'm
because I
here
was
with
helping the
Camille.
fire
Camille, you
department.
were inside the school. Walk us through, first of all, thank you here.
Oh my God, Emery.
Well, I was sitting in my classroom and he came up to my door, or the door to our classroom. Classmate got up. She
Can
went to
y'all
open
hear
the
this
door, but she
okay? Do I
didn't.
need to cut it up a little
Because
bit?
she saw that he had a gun, she announced it. As soon as she announced it, he
If I
started
would shut up,
firing.
you'd
We all went
hear it.
into the corner. Yeah, we just kind of heard a lot of gunshots. Then we heard a lot of, and then maybe 3 minutes later, we heard police running in. And then as soon as we went out, it was flooded with police officers and a lot of deputies.
So I want to be clear. You saw the gunman come to your classroom door.
Yes, sir. He was my classmate.
Oh my God.
What is going through your mind? This isn't every ordinary day. You're seeing the gun. Just walk us through that, because to a lot of people watching, you're young.
Yeah.
You should not have to deal with that. Walk us through this if you can.
I mean, I just kind of got up, was getting
I
ready.
hope this girl's parents are
I mean,
okay
I
with
never,
her
a lot of
talking
people say
about
that
this.
it's something that you never really think is going to happen. It's not something that goes through your mind in the morning, and it's really not something that goes through your mind in the morning. As soon as I got to school, I was excited. I really wanted to be at school that day. And it was just complete bust, because I was hoping for a good day and it just turned into a terrible one for families and everyone.
How many gunshots do you remember hearing, if you can even remember how many?
Oh God.
At our
Emery.
door, I'm gonna say 4. I remember hearing 4. And then
he went to the other classroom next to ours, and I'm pretty sure I heard like 6 to 8 gunshots, and then I'm pretty sure he moved on to another hall because I heard more gunshots.
Have you processed this? I
So
don't
that's
know if you
that's
have.
12
This has
right
just
there.
happened. How are
That
you even
she
processing this?
that she can even process.
I don't know. I'm kind of in shock. I was in a lot of shock because I never really thought it would just happen to my school. I know it happens to others, but it just kind of was like I didn't really think it was going to happen to my school. It's definitely something hard to process, especially if you know some of those kids. And I mean, it's only like the second month of school, so it's like really very shocking.
That you can, through from a parent's perspective, getting all of this, what is even going through your mind as you're processing this?
My wife's a teacher. She was teaching at the elementary school next door, and I got a text that we had an active shooter situation. And of course, your first thought is my life, and then you're thinking about the other students and other parents, and are they safe? So at that point in time, I just was praying that God would protect my child, the other children. It's just a sad day, but it's a parent's worst nightmare. And again, you hear the cliches about you never thought it would happen in your area, and that's true. But it is a sad day, and we want to make sure that we're praying and supporting those families that have had tragedy into their homes today.
I know you guys have been out here all throughout the morning. You've had a very rough morning. As we leave, describe this school and describe this community. I mean, this does not even come front of mind to a lot of people that are happening
I was about
here.
to say, I
Describe this
surely hope
community for us.
her parents right there with her. They're not just interviewing this kid.
I have a lot of really nice. I love all of my teachers. They're definitely someone I could go to if I needed to talk. My coaches are like that too. I mean, it's small. It's not, everyone kind of sometimes gets along with everybody. Everyone has fights, sometimes. But I feel like the school is a good place to go, and I feel like just that happening kind of separates everybody, and everybody wants to be isolated and not really talk about it. So I feel like this is going to be kind of a hard thing to get through for the whole school.
Absolutely. Camille, thank you so much. You've had a very long morning, and
This
we're
was
praying for you,
a
and we're praying for you
school
as well.
shooting at a high school in
guys.
Barrow County,
that was
which
the
is
live interview
where
that you're listening
my
to with
family
Camille.
lives out
She
in
says that the gunman
Georgia.
came to her door and did not let
Allegedly,
that gunman in.
4
She describes
are
hearing
dead
4 to
and
5
30
shots
injured, I
outside of
believe is
that.
what they're saying.
The
I've not heard from
magnitude
the
of
news
what you just listened to.
anything
She is 15,
100,
16 years
but
old, inside, knew that person, said he
that's
was the
what they're saying.
classmate, saw the gun, heard the
Parents are
gunshots,
saying
did
that,
not let them inside of
saying
that
they ran a
particular
mile to the school
classroom.
because they couldn't park
Imagine
in the
these people
bus.
first thing in the morning, they are huddled up. I'm just getting chills just re-describing what you heard just there. And then they heard to go to a classroom next door where they heard even more gunshots. And then coming to find out all of this tragedy that happened
She said
here.
at
So
least
there's still a
12
lot of
that she could
activity
hear.
and a lot of
And
emotions.
then he went to
Again,
another
this is someone
hallway.
who
Oh
is
my
young. This
God.
is our next generation. And this is something that they are dealing with. Christine, Tom, tossing it back to you guys right now.
Wow, some graphic accounts. Eric, as we get new information, thank you so much. We have breaking news to report right now from the GBI.
Yeah, they are reporting now that 4 people are dead. 9 others are hospitalized. This is coming from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
Well, there's your
confirming
numbers
what we
from
were
the
hearing
news.
earlier. We
Okay.
were reporting casualties were reported by the sheriff's office, the GBI, now
4
confirming
dead, 9
4 total
hospitalized.
are dead and 9 are hospitalized.
So this story takes a brand new
So not
and very
30, but that's
tragic turn
still
right now.
too
We're
many.
told that the victims are being treated
13,
not
too
only at
many.
Grady Memorial Hospital, where that life flight victim was taken, but at Northeast Georgia Medical, Gainesville, and Barrow, where they have received patients as well. But now confirmed reports of at least 4 fatalities with 9 at the hospital.
And really incredible to listen to that student's take on
Did
what
you
went
flunk it?
down at her school
I only
today.
did
Think
because that's
about
where
it. The school
my
has been in
family is
session
from,
for
and then somebody
23
messaged me
days.
saying, "Hey,
23 days. Barrow County
this
Schools
is happening."
started
When
school
I was
August
actually in the
1st,
midst of
and
watching it
something
when
like
she
this takes
messaged
place.
me.
But what she describes is consistent with what we hear is
I don't want to put her
protocol
name out
for
'cause it's
school shootings for
her personal
students
name, but if you're
to hunker
watching,
down in their classroom and
I
lock
was
the doors and get
watching
away
while you
from the doors
messaged me.
and windows. So if there is a shooter outside the building or outside in the hallway, that they do not have access to them. And just incredible to hear her say that this gunman was her classmate. She knew this person. And to hear now that 4 people tragically
Thank you,
lost their
Funky.
lives
Thankfully, my
today
family was not
on the
involved. However,
23rd day of
my
the school
sister
year.
lived on
It's just,
roads
it's really
that
hard to put your
Turtle
head
Talk
around
lead
as
to the high
much
school, and
as
she
we
said it sounds like a
report
war
on
zone.
this
All the
happening across the
officers
United
coming
States.
through.
Sadly, this has happened in our backyard.
Well, and in light of that breaking news, it's just remarkable when we hear these eyewitness accounts from the text messages that went from students to parents, from a student that Eric Perry just interviewed out there on campus, the composure with which they're reporting details of what happened. And now we're sort of being given a picture of what unfolded inside the hallways of Appalachia High School exactly 4 hours
you're not
ago.
wrong.
And there will be no doubt accounts of heroic actions taken not only by the faculty members there who might have confronted this gunman, but the students who were
I feel like there
inside
needs
those
to be much
classrooms.
more
Incredible just to see how immediate the
awareness,
response
as this
was,
is all too
not only
common.
from the Barrow County Sheriff's
Can't kick
Office,
it,
but
yeah.
surrounding agencies
It's happening
swarming
entirely
to the
too
campus of
often.
Appalachia High School
It's always
to
dreadful
try
to
to
find
get
out why the
a
motive. I
handle
think
on what
with
happened
children, you
here. Of
can
course, we
usually
talked
look
about how
back
much
and
they have
see
trained
warning signs, how
for
these type of
this, and it just
things.
seems like the response was just so
Yeah.
immediate to
Yeah.
get the students safe and out
It-
of the building. A
I
lot of them
can
gathered out
almost
on the football field as
guarantee
they
it was
waited
somebody that
for
was
their
picked
parents
on.
to come get them.
Finally had
Curious to know
enough.
how that
Nobody did
process went
anything about
down,
it because
because
these schools
things
do
happen so
absolutely
fast.
nothing
How
about
organized
bullying
was
like
it
they
to
say
get
they do.
students to their parents? Of course, there is a process to make sure the right student goes to the
Not
right
that that
parent.
makes it
So
okay.
that had to be
However,
chaotic in its own way, in a sense. But students were quickly filed out of the building. 1,900 students at that, 9th through 12th graders, getting out of the building as quickly
Funky,
as
I'll never
possible and in
forget
the most
9th grade in
organized
my
fashion as
ROTC
possible as
uniform,
well
standing on
out
a
on the
lunchroom
campus. And
table
you think
watching
about
fights.
this, 13, 14,
That's what they
15,
did
16
when
year
I was in
olds
school too. So,
witnessing and experiencing something like this. It really just should not happen.
It's
Jamie,
unimaginable. And so now
I miss
this
you.
turns into a murder scene investigation as state officials from the GBI have been on scene since this whole thing broke out, with now confirmation from the GBI of 4 fatalities and 9 at least other injuries from
This is according to the
this
GBI, I
gunman
think.
who
Is
is
that what
now
they
in
said?
police custody, who opened fire at Appalachia High
Stop
School
showing
this
that.
morning
That
at
is so awful.
10:23 a.m.,
Why?
where 2,000 students attend every single day. We've heard of the remarkable composure from not only our Brooke Zahner, but
Why do they
Whitney
keep showing
Edney
that on
and
repeat?
Kevin
That's
Stewart,
disgusting.
of the
That is somebody's
reporting from students to
family
their
member.
parents through text messaging what unfolded that morning. Some pretty compelling and graphic accounts
No,
of
Juicer,
not
they're
only
doing
the
it for.
gunman,
Oh
but
God,
the
that
teachers who might have
makes me sick.
come in contact with that gunman, and the quick action of students who might
There's
have prevented
no
more
reason
casualties from
whatsoever to
happening
zoom in
there
on
this
that.
morning.
I would imagine school will likely not be in session throughout this
Oh my
week. We
God.
will wait to hear from
I would be
Barrow
so
County
upset if
school
that was my
officials on
family
how
member.
that will be handled this week in light of what has happened here at Appalachia High School. You talk about all the
Nomad, we do
surrounding
too. We have
schools
the
that were
buzzer system
impacted
in
by
our schools,
this
but I
within
don't think they
proximity of
have
where the
metal
school shooting
detectors
happened,
either.
and the urgency for
They all
families and
need them.
parents and mothers and fathers to get to
Thank you,
their children
Alabama
and just
Mom.
hope they can put their arms around them once they get to the campus of the school.
Yeah, this is a tragic story that unfortunately plays itself out over and over again in our society these days. It happened down in Fort Lauderdale. at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, where I reported for the station for days and days in the aftermath of that shooting. And I can tell you, a couple of things happen in the wake of situations like this. The community really comes
Listen,
together. And
I
from
would
what
be
I've
that
gathered out
mom
there
that like
in,
your mom
in
can't
Barrow
come
County,
get you. Come
this
on,
is a
let's
pretty
go. Let's
dispersed,
get out of
but
here.
pretty
Come home with
tight-knit
me. We'll
community,
figure it out
and
from
a
there.
tight-knit campus
I'd
community
have my
where
car so
that
shoved full of
student
kids it
reported
wouldn't
to
even
us
be
that they
funny.
are all bonded together. Yeah, we fight once in a while,
I would
but
not
we
let
are
them
a
just go home
close-knit
by
campus
themselves. That
community where
I couldn't
everybody
imagine that.
knows each other. And so
Because they said earlier,
we don't know if the
if
murder victims
a
have been
parent
taken out
can't
of the
come get them, they're
building
putting them on a
yet.
bus to go home.
This is certainly now a crime scene investigation, which will unfold in the days and hours and weeks to come.
And you just think about, you bring up Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, how much more advanced and knowledgeable and trained are officers now since an incident like that.
Yeah, every time something like this happens, they learn from the last one, and perhaps that prevents further casualties, and it expedites the way that authorities are able to neutralize, a gunman that walks into campus. That's something else we don't know a lot about at this time. Is how is this gunman related to the campus community? Is it a student, an alumni, or somebody completely unrelated? That information hopefully will come out here. We're expecting a news conference to happen at about 4 o'clock.
Nicole, I would love to know what kind of conclusion y'all come to. You don't have to say it on here,
what
but
transpired this morning. But the worst news has been realized now, is that we have 4
Nomad, holy
fatalities
cow,
and 9 other injuries.
220 students in your entire
So
school from
absolutely
7th to
unfortunate.
12th.
Our hearts, of course, go out to those individuals.
horrible, but
Obviously,
at the
there is
same
a
time,
process
it's the
before
reality
information
and
like
the
that
outcome
is
of what
confirmed to the
happened.
media. There
Tragic
is a
as-
process of making
and
sure
maybe
next of
it can
kin
deter
is
someone that
notified
strong.
as to what happened, that their loved one has passed away. We imagine that process has
They have to be
since
buzzed in,
taken
but they
place
let
for that
everyone in who
information
buzzes
to
in.
be
Yeah.
released to the public
Well,
now that 4
so ours,
fatalities
you have
been
to be buzzed
confirmed.
in, and then you have to
Do
check
not
in
know
the
if that
office,
number
and
will
then they have to
increase. We
unlock
certainly
another set of
hope
doors for you to
that
get
is not the
into the
case.
school. Hey,
But
Grandmammy
again,
Annie.
still so many questions that need to be answered with all of this, as to, especially with the suspect being in custody and alive, that person can be questioned now.
Alabama mom,
what the
101
motive
kids.
was. How premeditated was
We
this?
can
How did
walk
this
in one set
weapon
of doors,
get into
check in
possession
at
of
the
this
desk.
individual? How did they get
Yeah,
it on
so we have to be
campus?
buzzed in
All of these
through
questions,
both
I'm
sets
sure,
of
being
doors.
asked
One to
by
even get to the
officials
office
with
and
a
one to
suspect
get
in
into the
custody.
actual
And of course,
building
with
where the
those who
kids
have
are.
been wounded in all of this, they certainly will have critical information to help authorities piece together this puzzle, piece together this timeline of what happened at 10:23 this morning inside Appalachia High
Yeah.
School until now.
And so we've heard from state
There's still
officials
so many
and
kids out
federal
there.
officials are up on what's happening as well. All the way from the White House on down, Governor Brian Kemp releasing a statement earlier saying that he's
Jamie, that's
directed all his
exactly right.
resources to what's
Goody
happened.
says, say if your
Representative Mike
kid
Collins,
bullies
who's
mine,
the
I hope you can
congressman
fight too.
that represents this area, has also released a statement. This is from the governor, that he's joining family and prayers for the victims, and that they're going to continue to work with,
Bitty
with
bumper
the
nickel.
local and state and their federal partners as they work to gather more information
That's what we
as
have
to
to
exactly what happened
decide.
here.
And we
Have to do
just
is be
received an
buzzed in
official
and then-
statement
yeah.
from the White House. We told you earlier, President Biden was briefed by
40?
the Department of Homeland Security. I'm going to
Good
read
Lord.
some of what he wrote here in this
40
statement
in their
on the
graduating
shooting
class.
at Appalachia High School. He says, Jill and I are mourning the deaths of those lives that were cut short due to more senseless gun violence, and thinking of all the survivors whose lives are forever changed. What should have been a joyous back-to-school season in Winder, Georgia, has now turned into another horrific reminder of how gun violence continues to tear our communities apart. Students across the country are learning how to duck and cover instead of how to read and write. We cannot continue
That's
to accept this
disgusting.
as normal. We are closely coordinating with officials at the federal, state, and local level, and are grateful for the first responders who brought
the
the suspect
truth.
into custody and prevented
You're,
further
yeah,
loss
Nomad,
of
no,
life.
you're not kidding.
He goes on to say, ending this gun violence epidemic is personal to me. It is why I signed into law the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the most meaningful gun safety bill in decades, and have announced dozens of safety executive actions. I also
Penny,
established the first ever White House
really
Office of
is.
Gun
This
Violence
happened,
Prevention, overseen by Vice President Harris.
for those of
We've
you
made
just coming
significant
in
progress,
the
but
county
this
I
crisis
have
requires even
family
more.
living in.
He
Right
ends
down
by
not
saying,
far
after
from, they
decades
live
of
not far
inaction,
from this
Republicans in
school,
Congress
actually.
must finally say enough is enough and work
That
with
link I
Democrats
posted
to
is
pass
just for
common
this
sense
Fox
gun
5,
safety
y'all,
legislation. We must ban assault
just so
weapons
they
and high
don't
capacity
try to
magazines
strike
once
me or
again,
something.
require safe
I'm
storage
make
of
sure I share
firearms,
it.
enact universal background checks, and end immunity for gun manufacturers. These measures will not bring those
Messy
who were tragically
Jesse.
killed today
But I
back, but
mean,
it will help
Annie,
prevent more tragic
yes,
gun violence from
it's
ripping
on hold until
more
Dolly
families
recovers.
apart. And that was the entire statement there from the White House.
And not lost on any of this is the fact that we're 61 days from the presidential election, which is, you know, in the thick of it right now after the Labor Day holiday.
There you
can
go,
bet that both
jet lag.
candidates will be
Talking about the presidential
responding
election.
in their own way. Both the vice president and the former president himself, the two set to debate on stage less than a week from today.
I said
and
earlier
this will certainly be on the
that he's
minds of
been
not only the candidates,
notified of this. I guarantee
but
that.
voters as
Let me
we,
hush.
you know, enter the heat
Let
of
me
the
hush.
national political season. And
We only have
these
$1
two
general and
parties
no red lights.
address gun violence in
Where'd
their
it go?
own ways and
Oh,
through their
it's
own
like 8 miles
ideologies.
away.
But
Oh, wow.
you know, if you're a
I think
parent
that's one of 2 high
of one
schools
of these
that
victims or one of
in
the
that
students
county,
in
if
this
I'm
high
not
school,
mistaken.
politics is the furthest thing from your mind right now.
I'm not
Yeah,
entirely sure,
you
Funky,
wanna
but
get
I
your
know
hands around your children, make
there was
sure
another high school
they're
on
safe
lockdown due
and they're
to
okay. We continue to show some of
gun
these
threats
images
today,
again from
after this happened.
earlier this afternoon of what happened at Appalachia High School. We would show you currently what's happening overhead.
Mental,
However, there's been a
yeah.
flight restriction in place above the area of the high school, so
It
we can
is
no longer
happening
fly
way
our
too
news
often,
chopper
Roosevelt.
to
I
show you
agree.
those images. But we
Fights
have
happen from
reported
time to time,
earlier
but
that
bullying is a
the
lack of
school has
parenting
been
issue, in my
cleared
opinion.
as they try to continue
Well,
to get
Jamie and
students
too, the schools do
matched
absolutely
up
nothing
with their parent, but the
about it.
building, from
My
what we
kid has been
know,
bullied
has
big time
emptied of
last
any
year, and
students
the
and
school
staff
does
again as they
absolutely
continue
nothing.
to now piece together and put this timeline together of what exactly happened here at Appalachia High School this morning. I've been combing my emails and combing any type of social media, as
That's
you
not a red
mentioned,
light, it's a four-way stop.
Tom, that this, of course, is probably,
No, man.
it will be a topic of discussion throughout the election season.
The
Have not
schools can
seen
tell you
any
all day
statements
long
from
that they
the
do things
Harris-Walz
about
campaign
bullying, but
or
they
from
don't.
the Trump-Vance campaign
Not at all.
on either front just yet. But
Ours
certainly that
don't.
is something that's eventually they're going to be making.
Heck,
a
I don't know if
statement
I told
about.
y'all last year my child was slapped in the face.
We'll
A
dig
boy
that up for you.
slapped
But
her
in the
right in the face.
meantime, in
Her
the
eye
immediate here, I
was
want to get out to
bruised
Fox 5's Kevin Stewart,
from being hit.
who is
The
live.
kid
Kevin,
went
you've been
to
along that
ISS for
roadway
the second half of the
where
day.
parents have
and
been
was right back
walking
in
up to try
class
to get to
the
their
next day.
kids. And now with this news that we're talking about 4 fatalities
Bye,
here on campus
Janet.
with several other injuries.
Emery, I'm
The
not
story
kidding.
just takes on a
That these
whole
schools
new
do
meaning now
nothing.
for those folks who are walking by you.
Yeah, without a doubt. And one of those folks that just walked down here, a young man who is a sophomore, who said he did see one of those lifeless bodies in the hallway as he was walking out with his hands
my
up.
kid
The type of thing that
did
we have
not want me to go
seen,
into the school
unfortunately,
because
countless times with school
if y'all
shootings across the
know
nation over the
anything
last
about
2
Addison,
decades. He
let me
had a
turn
chance
this down
to
a little
talk
bit
to the
for a minute.
GBI and kind of give his account of
Addison
what
is
happened. He told
on,
them that he believed it happened sometime between 10:30 and 11 o'clock. He said that
she's in the gifted
it was
program,
quite
like
alarming.
teachers pay.
He said what was really
Not that
uncomfortable for
my
him is
kid,
that they had only had
she's
one
like,
drill
Mom, don't you
that he
dare
had gone
go
through.
up there and do
And
anything
he said that they weren't quite
because
sure
you're
where to
gonna.
go
Yeah,
and how to
she
do
asked me not to
all
go,
of
so I
this. But he
respected
says
that.
it in the end all worked out. I had a chance to talk to his big sister, who
The parents were
graduated
charged and
here, I think she said
convicted
3 years ago,
in the
who
school
came to
shooting
pick
near me in
him up
Michigan.
and talked about
Are you
the
talking about the
discharge
Crumblies?
situation and how
I'm assuming this
anxious
was
that
another
was
student. Yes, it
trying
was,
to
Penny.
get a
According
hold of
to
her little brother.
students,
But
it was.
because this area apparently
Well,
traditionally
Georgia
doesn't have great cell service, and of course a lot of
begin to
people
prosecute parents who
using
don't have
their cell
control over
phones
kids to
made
slash
it more
guns.
difficult. And she was
I hope
ecstatic
so.
when she was able to
I
finally
think
pick up
maybe
her little
every
brother, and they
situation
are
like
on
this,
their way back
parents
home.
need to be charged.
Yeah, you think about that. They had to
Totally different
walk, physically
program. They
walk
usually
to
won't
the
suspend.
school. and
No,
then once they
Juicer,
get
there.
to the area where they can pick
That's
up their children,
my
there's a process
middle
on top of
girl.
that
She's
to
not
get them. So
in.
I just can't imagine how anxious that has to be.
She's
The
not in
hardest
the
walk of their
special ed
lives,
program.
I
She's like
imagine, to try to get
gifted
to their
is
students
in
and make sure they're okay.
like
Yeah, and Kevin's been
I
talking
don't
to
know,
some people
above
who've been
average grades
walking
and stuff.
by him.
She's
Kevin, if
extremely
you're still
smart.
with us, did they know or did they
Funky,
talk to you
yeah.
about the
I
fact
mean,
that there might be
charge the
fatalities
parents
involved
if it can be
here?
proven that they got
You
it
know,
from them.
we've
Yeah.
been sort of holding back on reporting
If you
things
could prove
until
that your kid
we're
did
able to
not,
confirm it.
it
But
didn't come from you, then
I imagine some of those folks have told you
that's
that
different. But
they knew about the fatalities, and I'm wondering about their reactions
my
as they
kid
made
got
their way
suspended
toward
in fourth grade
campus.
for 2 days for sticking up for a kid.
Yeah, the one young man, he was
Well,
the
my
one
kid,
person that I did talk
Jamie,
to,
wasn't even going to
who
say
did
anything.
say, as
Her
I said a
friend
moment
went and
ago,
told
that
him.
he did see one of the bodies in
If
the
they get him
building
from
as
home, the
he
parents are
exited
responsible.
the
Yes, I agree.
school, and they're standing drill with the hands up. One thing, and this is, I can't emphasize this enough, how important it is to be
Yeah,
right,
Funky, I
not
agree with
first,
they can get him from anywhere,
accurate in
but if you can
situations
prove that
like
they
this.
came
But
from
the
that
young man
house,
did
then
say he
absolutely, I
saw
think the
the
parents should
suspect
be
taken into custody
charged
and
for
did
that.
describe him. He says that he didn't know him, but he said that he did have a friend who was familiar with him, and he believes, according to him, that this is someone who no longer goes to this school.
Very interesting. We'll be certain to, when officials
I missed that.
get
Sorry,
back to
y'all.
the microphone, try to nail that down if that is in fact the case, that this
If
potentially
if they're
was someone
locked
who
up.
no
Well, if
longer
they're
is an
locked up
active
well
student
enough, the
at
kids
the
wouldn't be able to
school,
get them unless they
who was
have
able to get
access to
onto
it, right?
campus.
Right, and it's important.
'Cause mine are locked up.
Go
My
ahead.
Yeah, it
kids
is
don't know the
important
code
because
to
we
get
want to be
in.
able to. He did describe even more, but I'm
If
comfortable
the parents
saying
give them
just that
access
much
to
to kind of put a
the
little bit of
stuff,
context
then
in there. But that
in
is
my
something that I
opinion,
think
it's
is going to be
they're
really
still
important and
responsible
something
for
that we
that.
will be looking forward to hearing from law enforcement and authorities coming up
Yeah,
at
Penny,
4
I think
o'clock
that's what they
news
just said, is
conference.
that the
Does it
kid
appear
didn't
to
even go to
you,
that school
Kevin,
anymore.
that I don't know from your vantage point if you can even see where the students are at the football stadium, but
No, please excuse my
does it
kids.
appear to you that most of the students have been accounted for with their parents? I know some don't have the ability to have their parents come get them, but do you see that there are less students out there?
Here's what I can tell you, Christine. Here's what I can tell you, and this is what I gleaned from the
Juicer,
genesis
oh
of the
my
young man that I
gosh.
just recently talked to. She says
Okay, let me
that
go
what's
deal with
happening
these
is that you have a lot of
hellions.
people
I'll
back
be
on the
right
football
back.
field as they exited the building. What you have is kind of like a gathering spot. The students, staffers, teachers, they are giving interviews to the GBI, and once that happens, then they are allowed to exit. And that is one of the reasons why maybe some of the confusion as to the process of how kids were exiting and what was done next, because they did have to sit tight for a little bit. And I'd say in the last hour, maybe, that's why we've seen the stream of families walking down from the school, because they were in a safe space on that school, talking to authorities and waiting for parents to orderly pick them up, so that there is making a chaotic situation less chaotic.
Yeah, I imagine authorities, it's very important for authorities to get their eyewitness accounts before they go home, that it's fresh on their minds and they can give them a fresh account before they leave the campus as to what they witnessed. Kevin, thank you so much.
All right, and as Kevin is gathering information from parents and students walking along that 1.5 mile trek onto campus, Eric Perry made his way right in front of the school. Eric, you've been talking to students. We referenced something that one of the students told you earlier, just about the tight-knit community there, and some of the heroic actions that might have unfolded inside the building there when this gunman opened fire this morning. Talk to us a little bit more about what these students and parents are telling you about the campus community there at Appalachia.
Yeah, Tom, Christine, all of the parents here, they're rallying together. The students are rallying
Human
together.
rights.
But what I've noticed is just with anything tragic happening, I don't think a lot of these students and a lot of the parents have not really grasped what happened. I talked to 3 more students there. They described hearing the gunshots. They described seeing the commotion and
Jamie
everything
says
that
it's still a
happened
parenting
afterwards.
issue.
But
Yeah,
I
I
don't
agree.
think that they really grasped exactly what happened. Here's what we're seeing now here at the scene. This is the media staging area. That's where we saw that news conference earlier,
Yes,
that press
she
conference
said it
earlier.
was her
We're
classmate.
expecting
That's
another one
awful.
at 4 o'clock. They just put up more tape. And then if you go to the right there, you can see more parents coming out. I just talked to another parent. She says she had been there on the football field since about 11:45 this morning, and she's just now leaving with her student. We've heard a lot of parents saying this has been the longest
Y'all,
morning
it's
ever.
almost 3
A lot of
o'clock
them
there, and
dropped
this
what they
happened
were
at like
doing. They
10
ran
o'clock this
over
morning.
here to that school,
Parents are just
and
now
many of
getting
them
their
have been
kids.
sitting there on the football field with their child, not able to get out. They tell me that each and every law enforcement officer examining each student before they're allowed to be checked out. So we're just now seeing more and more people leaving with their kids. But a lot of people describing this small, tight-knit community here. You've seen it before. You've seen it again. You've seen the parents going over. But Michael Moore, if you could just keep going. This is just how many schools here. This is the high school. That's a middle school up there. To the right is an elementary school. And then there's a daycare as well. So there are thousands of students impacted in this, not just at the high school, but at the middle school. We're talking the elementary school, and then we're talking those infants we've seen being walked out of that daycare center that's just over there on the other side here as well. So the cars that you're seeing coming down, a lot of these are parents. We've also seen what looks like maybe high schoolers that have been able to drive to school. They've been able to leave with a parent or a guardian inside, but they're starting to trickle out as well. But again, earlier we talked to Caitlin. She was there when that gunman, she said he was her classmate. She came and knocked on the door there. They didn't let him inside. And then they heard gunshots. And then afterwards, they also said she heard more gunshots from the classroom next door. But a lot of parents and a lot of the students here, they're grateful to be together. But again, they're also shocked when they hear that 4 people at the school are dead and then 9 others are injured. We also saw what looked like a medevac helicopter that was parked right outside of the school probably about 30-40 minutes ago. It took off. Not sure if there was anybody inside of that as well there, but a lot of people just now coming out from being on that football field where the parents have been reunited with their children since about 11:30 or just right after this happened early this morning, and they're just now being able to come out. So they've been sitting out there in the hot, in the heat.
Her classmate,
sun,
Funky, they
but they're
said that
with their
the
children. So
gunman
that is
knocked on
the
her
main
door.
thing
and they
when
didn't
it
open
comes
the
to
door.
that. Tom, Christine.
So they
Eric,
moved
what are
to the next
some of the people
classroom.
that you've been able to talk to telling you now that we have this information confirmed about 4
Funky,
fatalities?
I don't know that they
these
even
are
know for sure because they
likely
did just say that.
people. We don't know if they're students or if they're teachers, but these are people these students know. These are people these students have interacted with in the short 23 days that school has been in session. What are they saying to you about this idea that one of the people in their school community
My question would
has
be
died?
if he was a freshman, or I'll say he.
Yeah,
I don't
many
mean
of
he
the students say
necessarily. I
they
don't know
know
what the
those people,
student was,
right?
but
We haven't confirmed
if they
teacher,
were a
student,
freshman, how in the world
faculty,
did they get to this
exactly
school
who
if
just
they
yet. But many of them say, you know, I've seen so and
didn't
so
go
around,
there
or I
without a
saw
parent
blood,
not
or I
finding
saw
out that
paramedics rushing in.
they're
That's the
not at
type of
school?
thing that we're hearing at this time there. But a lot of them, they're just still trying to comprehend. The one person I talked to knew the
Yes,
suspect,
Penny,
not
very confusing
necessarily
time
the
for
victims
everyone.
there. A
There
lot of
may
them
be a
have said
classmate,
that
it
when
may
they
be
walked
someone
out,
who isn't.
they had to
Yes.
walk out with their hands up like this as they made
But
their
I've
way to
also
the
heard that there
football
is
field, because
multiple
at the time they didn't know who was a suspect
shooters,
and who was a
which
victim or who
again
was
is
innocent
rumor
and all
from
of that. But they
locals, so I don't
described
know for
walking
sure.
out with their hands raised to that safe location there. I think it's starting to trickle in, but not just yet with the people I talked with, just who exactly
Oh
the
my God,
victims
Trisha, I
are
know.
in this case. We've heard different
I'm
rumblings,
glad they
not
went in
reportable at
and
this time, but many of
took
them
care
just
of
still
it
trying
and
to
not just
process
stood
this. But
there
I did
like,
talk to someone who knew the
oh,
suspect
that.
in this, and
Let
they
me
said
not
that they
even
were
get started on
classmates
that.
and really just didn't expect any of this really to happen.
Yeah, it's just, you know, so shocking on
That
so
whole
many levels.
situation, Juicer, just
Not only for folks who
pisses
are
me off.
watching the coverage of all this, but certainly the students.
Hunter,
who are
$1 Million
in that,
Man, listen. I
campus
know I called
community
you a
and-
lady one time,
and
but you don't have
the
to call me
parents in the
that.
surrounding community who just want to know if their child is okay. Eric,
Jet lag.
thanks for that reporting.
Hey, $1 Million
and then sort of
Man.
enter into this area only to be blocked over a mile away from, from the school, trying to get
I had
to
a
your
friend that
son
kept
or
a
daughter.
knife
And
in
we're
his
getting more information
truck,
trickling in
like
on our end that one
I
patient
don't
has
know,
also been
some
taken
kind of knife
to
in between his feet and the
Eggleston Children's
console,
Hospital for
and
evaluation and treatment. We do not know
and
their
he got
condition,
kicked
but
out of school
if they've been
because
taken to Eggleston, we
somebody walked by
can
his truck and
confirm
saw it.
likely that they were they were a student injured in
RJ,
all of
really?
this. So we know one person has been taken to Grady, one to Northeast Georgia Medical Center, the Barrow location, and also one to the Gainesville location of Northeast Georgia Medical Center, and one person at Eggleston.
And
Who's
as we
Hunter?
kind of wrap our arms around
Emery, that's
the
me,
aftermath
apparently.
of what happened today, there's no doubt that this school is not going to open for quite a while. And so these, the questions will be, where do these students then fan out and attend school in other jurisdictions? Because
Well,
what will happen now in the coming days and the weeks is that authorities and investigators will try to piece back together and recreate
I would
exactly
imagine
what
they're
happened.
probably going to
Here,
have
there will be
these
a forensic
kids
investigation that transpires. There will be
just doing
reenactments
online
around the
school like
school
they did
as
during
to
COVID.
how the police responded. We talked
Instead of
about
putting them in
earlier,
other
as we
schools, it
learned
just
from one school shooting
to
to the
me that
next,
would be
sadly
easier, but I
enough.
don't know if
But
they
we
can
do
even get
learn
their computers
lessons.
or not.
What could have been done differently to prevent fatalities or injuries from happening? And so
When I was in high
this
school, we
becomes a
had so
crime
many
scene.
bomb threats.
This will
So
take
they would send
days,
us
if
to
not
the
weeks,
football field across the
to
street.
gather evidence and information.
Yeah, I'm
This
scared.
will become
Yeah,
a memorial site for
Nicole,
those who
wait,
lost their
yeah,
lives. And so it's
I
anyone's
waited
guess.
to.
The school that is relatively young in its
Our schools,
existence,
nobody
it
can
only
have
opened
plastic.
back in
Oh, wow.
2000.
I don't know that ours
What will
can either,
become of this
honestly.
structure and this building and this site where at least 4
It's
people
crazy the
lost their
small
lives
things you
today?
think that have
Really see
changed. Like
humanity come into play
when I was in
when
school, we
incidents
had
like this
metal
happen. I
silverware.
would not be
Now,
surprised if there is some sort of community gathering, whether it's tonight or in the coming
Regina,
days,
according to
to help this
GBI,
small rural
4 are
community
unalived and 9 have
process what
been
happened. As you said,
hospitalized.
their classrooms and their hallways are now crime scenes, and will be so as they piece together the timeline and what happened inside the high school in the next coming days. So I'm sure we will be hearing from those in the
Nicole.
community, maybe even those in the church
Listen, that's how I
communities
got
to
my
help
first ISS was
victims really
leaving school
process
early.
and gather what happened. And
The
I
teacher
imagine
let
the
me
school
walk
district,
out and
when
drive off.
students do return to
But then I got in
class
trouble when I
at
came
some
back the
point, will
next
be
day.
providing counseling for these young people, counseling for their faculty and their staff.
Tragedies like this bring the campus and the
I
community
can't
closer
imagine these
together.
poor babies going back
You
to
know, we were
school.
talking about Marjorie Stoneman down in Florida earlier. You know, the candlelight vigils, the gatherings of students and faculty and parents. This is an
Oh, thank you,
experience that
Grandmary
will
Annie.
likely change the lives of the students who attended that school, perhaps even on certain levels, the life trajectories of many of these kids who will want to
Certainly
make a difference.
very traumatizing. And these students' eyewitness accounts are so important, not only helping us get you information, but helping authorities, more importantly, get to the bottom of what happened here. We want to go ahead and play some sound for you from one of the students we were able to talk to today. Take a listen.
We do drills all the times, so everybody thought that it was a joke at first until this girl got slammed into our classroom and she was like, there's police everywhere, like it's not a drill, until a red like siren, or not a siren but like a light went on, until that's when we realized like it was for real. Then we heard like pieces literally everywhere, and it was like a chase going on in the halls. And then our math teacher got shot, and he was just laying there like in blood and everything.
That from one of the students. That's a recurring eyewitness account that it involved perhaps one of the math teachers on campus. We've heard that from several students who've been texting and reporting what happened today. That this was perhaps a math teacher. So that's basically all we know.
Yeah,
right now.
and certainly within the next hour and 15 minutes, we will bring you live the updated news conference. That
Yeah,
was,
Funky, you're not
promised
kidding.
by the Barrow
Jeez.
County Sheriff's Office. I know they're eager to get information out to the public as they're using this time right now to try to get the details and the facts. But
I
our
guess
Brittany
Fox
Ebony,
5 does not
one of our reporters, was
filter
able to get that sound from the
anything.
students on the
Golly.
ground, and you hear these students are so commendable to hear the composure that they have in recounting exactly what went down. I imagine over time, it hasn't quite sunk in for them yet. I imagine over time what they witness is something
Yeah, these
like you
poor
said,
kids.
will stick
They're
to them
probably
likely
all
for a
running off
lifetime.
Our
adrenaline
Brittany
when it hits them
Ebony is
later
live
tonight.
on the scene. Brittany,
Oh
you've been
my
able to
God.
so skillfully sort of contextualize what has
If they
happened
don't
for us
stop showing
today
that
based
mess,
on
I'm gonna
the
get mad.
eyewitness accounts that you've been getting and your conversations with parents. What more can you tell us?
Well, Tom, I've spoken to more students who are able to confirm what that student who we spoke with earlier said regarding the math teacher. One student told me that when this lockdown happened, they heard about 12
Oh, they
to
didn't show
15
anything, Juicer. They were just
gunshots.
talking
And
about
then I
the
was
teacher
told that
laying
shortly
in
after they
blood and
received
stuff.
communication through their school website, whatever this app is that these kids use to get those notifications from the school system. They received a notification to go into lockdown, and that from there, everyone in the classroom huddled down. They secured the classroom. And then after that, he says, some time went by, and then that's when law enforcement officers started making their way through the school. And when they did that, he says law enforcement had a key, and they came to the classroom, which again was secure, used that key, and then they law enforcement moved in. He says that they were told to all put their hands up. They were organized, structured rather, and then led out of the school and to a separate area on campus. So we're kind of hearing a little bit more about this lockdown protocol and what students experienced once they heard the gunshots and once the school realized that this really was an active shooter situation. A sophomore that I spoke to just moments ago, he told me that when he was leaving the hallway, when he was being led out of one of those classrooms, he said he did see a math teacher. We're assuming it's the same math teacher that we heard from the freshman earlier. He said that the math teacher was laying there on the hallway floor in blood. And he also said there was a lot of dust around as
Hey,
well,
Granny
a lot of blood
Bassmaster.
throughout the hallway.
According
I was
to
also told, and again,
GBI,
this
Granny,
is not actually confirmed by
4
law enforcement. I want to preface this
are
by saying,
dead
as I say
and
this,
9
but
are
I was told by 2
hospitalized.
students that there was an AK weapon on the ground in the hallway. Again, very important in these types of
An
situations as
AK?
information is coming in. We're
They're
hearing
gonna make me
different
cuss.
accounts, that we don't take it, we take it with a grain
Hey,
of salt.
Deb.
However, I did hear it from at least 2 separate students, still waiting on law enforcement confirmation, but there was an automatic weapon there on the hallway. And that's kind of their account of what happened as they were being led through by law enforcement once that response happened. Tom?
How do all these
Brittany
damn
Ebony
kids
live
keep
for
getting
us
a hold of
outside
these things?
right behind you where that campus shooting
Thank you for
happened.
becoming
As
a
we
member
look at
mode.
pictures from earlier, Brittany, thanks.
They're gonna make me lose my mind.
Of
I'm
the
not
response in the aftermath of the shooting, the fire rescue vehicles that were there, the Life Flight helicopter.
Emery, I try so hard not to on
that
here.
transported the victim here to Grady Memorial Hospital.
Juicer,
where we've seen the
we
presence
have
of
one,
the
but it's
GBI as they begin to gather information. We're hearing a lot of
it's put
corroborated
away,
accounts of what happened
locked
inside the
away.
building
You
this
know,
morning,
like
just after 10 o'clock when this shooting first unfolded. We're going to get some more
we
concrete
have our
information
own
from
ARs,
the
but
Barrow County Sheriff's Office coming
again,
up at 4 o'clock in a news conference, which of course we'll carry live. The Barrow
my
County
kids have
Sheriff
been
speaking
taught.
out earlier, saying that what happened is an evil thing and just confirming those
Isn't it
injuries
weird? They
and that they
always
have a
seem to either
suspect in
have an
custody.
Yeah, and
AR
I've been
or an AK,
looking at
never
their
anything
social
else.
media timeline as well. They said
Yeah,
they would try
jet
to
lag,
update
I
some
swear.
information there, not seeing anything
Luna,
quite
no,
yet.
this is in
Again,
Georgia where
officials
my
holding information kind of close to
it's
their
in
vest right
Barrow
now.
County.
So the details that they do end up releasing are in fact factual and
What?
correct, but just such a massive presence when we
Not
just
right now.
show
You have to take a
you
nap.
these
Come here. You want to say hi?
videos, show you
Hi,
how
Snake.
students were calmly walking out to the
Say
football
hi.
field.
Go lay down.
Just shows you how rehearsed this is
Say hey.
and how
Don't stick your
important
tongue out,
those
butthead.
elements are when they practice this, when
Can you
they
wave at
sadly have to
least?
practice these active shooter drills
No, you're gonna be
in
crazy.
school. It looked like from the outside looking in that much of what they practice was very helpful
No, go lay down, or you're not
and
going
was
to
a
the
reason
park.
why people were in such an orderly
Say
fashion
hey, buddy.
able to expedite getting the students out quickly and away from danger.
It's kind of sad on the one hand that the shock value of this
They said, hey,
has been
Vanessa
taken away
Boo.
because it's
You make
happened
people come out of the bushes.
so many times in our culture and our
Hey,
society.
go lay down.
But on the other
We'll go
hand,
to the
it's
park
something
when your
that these
sister gets home,
students,
okay?
every student really now that attends school has in the back of their head that something like this
When
might
Chloe gets
happen.
back home,
And
yes.
here's how I respond in a calm,
Go lay
cool,
down.
and composed manner to get out of this building as quickly as I can. So that happened today.
As President Biden said in his statement, students shouldn't be learning to duck and cover. They should be learning to read and write when they're in school.
But good thing they know how to do it at this point.
Yeah. Let's go to Kevin Stewart, I believe, is on the ground for us there outside the school. I'm curious, Kevin, now that we're a few hours removed from when this incident happened, are you still seeing that huge law enforcement presence, or are you finding that some agencies are starting to disperse to some degree?
Son?
No, we still have that law enforcement presence. Don't see too many. Let's see, Dave, if you can pan off and zoom down there, you can see this whole line of police, law enforcement vehicles that we've seen since we arrived here. If anything, some of the ones that are further up the road behind our camera have moved a little further down. We've seen agencies from all over, Gwinnett Police, Walton
Granny,
County Sheriff's
they have
Department,
apprehended somebody.
Department of Public Safety. They are still on scene here, including the GBI, multiple fire departments. And we've seen ambulances from Children's Hospital and other local EMS facilities come through this area by the campus and around the campus. Right now, what you should be looking at is folks who continue to come by and pick up their young loved ones. There's students here who we are told have been put in a safe area after exiting the building on the football field and have been giving interviews to the GBI to get their account as to what has happened here today. And an awful tragedy. You know, this community, Barrow County, is one of the many growing exurban counties of Metro Atlanta, fast growing. But this is an example of how anything can happen anywhere. And we've talked to multiple kids here today
Spunky,
who said they have drilled. And that was one of the important things here. But of course, when this happens, you can practice certain things, but sometimes things don't go all as planned. But everything worked out. They said that they were able to get out of the building and safely. One young man did say he saw one of the bodies, one of the 4 bodies that have been confirmed here on the campus during this mass shooting. That young man also did give a description of the suspect. He said he didn't know the young man, but knew someone who did graduate with the young man. And so indicating that this shooter may not be a student here any longer. He gave more detail, but I'm not comfortable revealing all of that yet as we wait for a 4 o'clock news conference to confirm so much of what we've been hearing here all morning and afternoon. Guys?
Yeah, because our Brittany Eddy as well, or one of our other reporters was able to get sound from a student who says they thought the gunman was their classmate because she was able to see the gunman. So again, as you said, Kevin, the authorities would definitely be able to get the facts to us. They're hearing some of the same eyewitness account.
Regina, they're not
corroborated as well.
They've not said who that
so we'll
is.
see
I'm
what
sure
they say about that at 4
will.
p.m. Kevin, I'm wondering too, as we said earlier, not all students or not all parents are able to drive to the school to get their child. That buses would potentially be available to students who aren't able to get a ride home. Have you seen any sight of a school bus being able to to get to the
I'll be
campus
right
there
back,
yet to
y'all.
take some of those students
These
home.
kids are out of control.
That's a good question because, Christine, I saw a couple of school buses up the block from the campus, and I do not see them. I've lost track of them. So I'm going to assume that they've, some of them actually gone up to the school up here, but nothing right back down by the high school. And so I assume they're going to be able to pick up some of the kids. It's important to note that the adjacent school, we've seen a lot of little kids being picked up by parents as well, as obviously the school next to it, that school has been dismissed early as well.
Yeah, I'm wondering, Kevin, speaking of, what the activity has been like. That's Bethlehem Middle School, and then Yargo Elementary, also just down the street there. What kind of activity has been happening in front of those campuses, if you can see them at all?
Well, the school that is just behind the camera, where I saw the school buses earlier, that one, you see people walking down with young people, and then sometimes I've noticed them kind of cross the street and come down this path, mixing with people who are obviously walking down here without a child to come get their kids. In some cases, I know that they did have another student here, but most of the activity, if you look back down here, this is the high concentration.
It's in Georgia.
Scoured about the area, a couple crews down closer into the high school facility. We're just a little further back, closer to the middle school, as we greet people who come by and get a different perspective of what's going on here.
Yeah, Kevin, real quick, since you're able to be on the ground there and see the expressions of parents as they walk by you. You spoke to that one parent earlier this afternoon who was going to retrieve her son, I believe, who sort of calmly kind of walked you through what she was telling, what the student was telling his mother happened. Has there sort of been a common mood among parents? Are they alarmed? Do you see a lot of anxiety out there, or have they been sort of calmly proceeding onto campus?
Tom, I would say for the most part, fairly common. And when we talked earlier, and we were talking with a woman who was coming down to get her child, I wanted to be, because we were alive, wanted to handle that situation particularly sensitively, because this is obviously a very difficult, challenging situation. But for the most part, I would say most people, because they know the kids are okay, they're feeling a whole lot better right now. Parents that we have talked to, everyone said kind of the same thing in terms of the difficulty of making initial contact. And once they got that contact, how much better they feel. Obviously, there have been people who've come by who've chosen not to talk. And certainly we respect that as they want to go about their lives and their child is safe. But for the most part, everyone has been very calm and just happy that their kid is alive.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin, for the perspective from the road there leading into the school. Mm-hmm. As you mentioned, Christine, there will be kind of stages of grief. I think in the immediate aftermath of this, students are just shocked by what happened.
Absolutely. And having to recount that and relive that again, not only for investigators, but for the public, certainly something that this
Funky,
is
I didn't grow up there, but my family has lived there for probably 12 years.
Let's go to our Eric Perry, who is also
in a really small
on the ground for us near the school with more information. Curious,
like on the
I'll ask
Georgia,
you the same
Alabama
question I
line.
asked Kevin, Eric, as far as the police presence there. It appears they are still going to remain on that campus, even though they do have the one suspect in custody.
Yeah, Christine. In fact, I've actually seen even more police coming in. Actually, I'm looking at more officers coming in off to my distance. He'll come by the time in just a couple of seconds here. We've also seen a community aspect coming together as well. Just really in times of situations like this, I've seen so many people on the back of their trucks. They have water that they're hanging out. I want to give you what these parents are also going through, as well as some of the students here. They have set out on that football field since about 11 o'clock this morning. And here comes another police police officer just kind of showing that point that even more people are coming in as well. But they have sat out there on that football field since about 11 o'clock, right after that incident happened. Many of them that you're seeing leaving are just now leaving. So they've been out there for 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours, 4 hours
Thank God it's not
sitting
like
out there in the
god
sun
awful
as
hot
well. We've
outside
also
today.
seen some parents who appear just now getting here, running to the football field. We see parents
Sure.
running to that middle school. I know you were talking with Kevin
Thank
Stewart
you.
about that, and to that elementary school as well. We've seen some buses that are leaving from that elementary school right now, but we've also seen people walking hand in hand with their elementary school students as well there. But we've also just seen a community coming together here as well. Michael Moore, can you show this guy there? I know you have water in your hand, but are you just handing out water to people?
Yeah, I live really close by, and I wasn't called into work. I work at Northside Gwinnett, so I wanted to do something to be able to help in any way means.
And I've seen so many people coming through. Is that just kind of a testament of this community and neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, we're in Georgia, you know, you want to help out, you want to be able to do something, you know, this is big, this is serious, and hopefully be able to do the God's work. But yeah.
All right, thank you so much. I know you have 2 cases of water. Thank you so much. But that's just a testament. We've been seeing that all throughout. People riding by on their trucks with water, handing out water, first responders to us journalists here on the scene, to the parents, because many of them are walking up to 2 miles, someone told me.
CNN
They're
did,
parking their
RJ?
cars and running over here as well. So many of these people we've talked to, these families, all impacted by this, and they are emotionally exhausted from all of this, from getting the news to experiencing this. I've been talking with different students as just they've come by. One girl told me that they actually have to run. So yes, they do practice situations like this, but she said that the police told them when they got to the back of the school, run with your hands up to that football field, which was a safe area. So they ran from that location of the back of the school, she said, to the football field with the police, with their hands raised as well. We talked to other people earlier. Camille, probably about an hour ago, the gunman, she says, came to her, was one of her classmates. She said they knocked on the door there. You see Gwinnett County Police coming in here as well. We hear sirens off in the district, Georgia State Patrol here, but she's talked a little bit about that gunman coming, knocking on their door, them hiding inside. Another person said they hid inside of a bathroom. They hid inside of a closet for about 15, 20 minutes until the police came to relieve them and to give them some sort of relief as well. There's a lot of parents here. You can tell on their faces, you can tell that they're still trying to figure out everything that is going on here. Off in the distance, that is where we believe that the press conference is going to be at 4 p.m. With the sheriff's office and some other top officials here as well. But just a sea of people starting to come out of that football field with their parents. You've seen tears, you've seen hugs, but a very emotional and tragic day that will stay with them for the rest of their lives.
RJ, where'd you see it on YouTube? Because all I see on CNN
strangers
is
like that man with 2 cases
political
of water
stuff.
walk by foot down to the school just to make sure people have even that basic need. I think we're going to see a lot more of activity like that. It just gives you hope in our society when you see the community come together like this.
And if there's any mercy whatsoever, it's that it's not 95 degrees today. It's a cooler day out there today. As Eric reported, those parents making the 1.5 mile trek from that checkpoint where they're not allowing any vehicles near the campus. Parents having to walk to get there.
Let's skip through that. Let's see. Oh, what the heck?
The amount of composure and calmness that these students are able to communicate through after everything that they've just been through. I spoke to one student who says that when all of this happened, that he wasn't sure, again, what was happening, but then they got a notification on Smartboard. Now, that is the school's internal communication system. He says at that point, the students were told, go into a hard lockdown. He and others went to a corner of the classroom. Everyone huddled down on the ground together. I'm told that that classroom door was secured. And then later on, of
Thank you,
course, once
RJ.
law enforcement made the way through the school and started to do their sweep, going room by room, I'm told that they used a key to unlock that classroom door. Now, a separate student that I spoke with, he said that he heard a lot of loud commotion and he was surprised because he was listening to music at the time. Listen to his account right here.
Oh, so I just heard gunshots like going off. I had my AirPods on full blast. I was blasting Ken Carson, and I heard like gunshots go off, and I was like, "Oh crap!" My friend like pushed me to the ground. I thought it was fake until I heard like more
Let's stop
gunshots. and
sharing
screams.
this for just a second, y'all, and show you this news feed thing that they're showing. I can't watch these babies talk about that. That's awful. There it is. Can y'all see that? Oh, all these stupid ads for. Yeah, you can see it. Okay. Oh, and all my emails. That's great. Gunman believed to be a 14-year-old in Georgia school shooting that left at least 4 dead, sources say. 14 years old. I mean, opened fire Wednesday morning inside the Appalachia High School in Winder, Georgia. Is believed to be a 14-year-old boy, law enforcement tells sources. Or tells CNN. The sources said it is not yet known whether the teen attended that school. The suspect is alive and in custody, but the Georgia Bureau of Investigation said in a post on X. Oh, y'all, I can't read fast. 4 people killed in the shooting, according to GBI. 9 others were transported to the hospital with injuries. Law enforcement sources said earlier approximately 30 people were injured in the shooting. It's unclear how many of those injuries are from gunshot wounds. The information is subject to change. I mean, imagine 19,000 kids trying to get out of that school at the same time. I'm sure there was injuries from all of that too. Smith asked for patience, saying the investigation remains very, very fluid. He hopes to provide another update around 4 p.m. Yo, I may not be on at 4 p.m., but I will come back later and we could talk about it. But I'll come back. I'll definitely come back and talk about it. I have mom duties I have to deal with too. But I will definitely try to. Yes, 14 years old, y'all. That's mm. Hang on, I'm trying to share this again for y'all. Oh.
That every day in our country, in the United States of America, that parents have to send their children to school worried about whether or not their child will come home alive. It's senseless. It is, we gotta stop it. And we have to end this epidemic of gun violence in our country once and for all. You know, it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. So we will continue, of course, to send our prayers and our thoughts to the families and all those who were affected, including, you know,
Wicked
I'm
West,
going
my
off script right
nephew
now, but
just started
listen,
pre-K
you
in
know,
that same school district.
Last year, I started a college tour.
And my baby started pre-K.
And I
Obviously in
traveled our
Alabama.
country meeting with our young leaders, right? And so it was college age young leaders. So I did trade schools, colleges,
$1 million
universities, community
and
colleges.
listen, I'm
By the way, I
biting
love
myself
Gen
so
Z. I
hard
just
right
love
now.
Gen Z. Right?
I could just I could get off of that any
But
minute.
I'll tell you, one of the things that I asked every time I went to the auditorium, and it would be filled with these young leaders, students, and I'd ask them, raise your hand if at any point between kindergarten and 12th grade, you had to endure an active shooter drill. And for the young leaders who are here who are raising their hand, I'm telling you, every time the auditorium was packed and almost every hand went up. You know, a lot of us,
Too bad
I'll
with fear
speak
for
about
our kids
myself,
at
you know,
school.
we
Yeah.
had, well, I grew up in California, earthquake drills, we had fire drills, but our kids are sitting in a classroom where they should
Some of
be
these kids
fulfilling
are the
their
ones.
God-given
Oh
potential.
my gosh. I'm
And
gonna make some
some
more
part
coffee
of
while
their
this
big, beautiful
woman's
brain
talking.
is concerned about a shooter busting through the door of the classroom. It does not have to be this way. It does not have to be this way. And, you know, this is one of the many issues that's at stake in this election. So New Hampshire, look, we have 62 days to go. 62 days to go.
Vice
And I'm
President
gonna
Kamala
tell you
Harris responding to what happened in our own neck of the woods this morning at Appalachian High School up in Barrow County, saying that, you know, what happened this morning was a senseless tragedy. And it's sad and unfortunate that parents have to wonder, you know, will my child come home alive? And that it doesn't have to be this way. So the first reaction from at least one of the presidential candidates, President Trump, for his part, holding a town hall tonight up in Pennsylvania, where this subject will also certainly come up.
Jet lag,
And
she's
I would
also letting a whole
imagine
lot
the
of
vice
them
presidential
over here
candidates,
across the
of course,
border
Tim
for
Walz, a
free.
teacher, a
So
former teacher, and
there's that.
has worked in the school system, I'm sure will have something to say about it as well. Again, both campaigns will likely bring this up as an issue. Sadly, another mass shooting at a school has taken place, and it's certainly going to be the topic of conversation in the political world as well. For those of you who may be just joining us, just want to do just a quick reset of just all the information that we have for you right now. Maybe you're just getting home, just able to tune into our live stream. That at about 20:23 this morning, there was an active shooting call there at Appalachian High School in Winder, Georgia. And we do have confirmation from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation that 4 people have died and 9 have been taken to area hospitals, one of them being Grady here in Atlanta, another at Northeast
Juicer,
Georgia
that's
Medical
not, oh
Center
my
at the
God,
Barrow
that's
and
not
Gainesville
just the high
locations,
school. Well, that
and as
building
well as
might be.
Eggleston
Well,
Children's
they've got the
Hospital.
middle
What we're
school,
trying to
elementary, and
get
a daycare
confirmation
all in
now
that same
is
vicinity.
who are the people among the dead and injured here, and yet another mass shooting in our community.
And so we know the gunman is in custody this afternoon, and we've heard from President Biden. You just heard from Vice President Harris and Governor Brian Kemp expressing his thoughts and prayers out to the victims of this tragedy, and Congressman Mike Collins, who represents the district up there, expressing his gratitude to law enforcement for quickly responding to this situation and expediting their investigation as to what happened here. The GBI now in control of what's happening on that campus as we get new live pictures from Skyfox 5 after having been kept away from the overhead skies of the school, understandably, as investigators sort of worked through the aftermath of what happened. Enrollment there, almost 2,000 students. The Appalachia Wildcats, as we've seen there on the football field. This has been a line that's been assembling over the past
Go on
like
and
half
on
hour
about
or
this
so
stuff,
that
but
we've seen
I'll
students
probably should
filing out.
just
Not
keep my
sure if
mouth
they're
shut.
being sort of interviewed on their way out but they seem to be going through some kind of checkpoint as they leave the campus grounds there.
Yeah, it's
Sounds like
interesting to
this,
see
do they really
dozens of
want to
students, probably these same students, were sitting
defund
in
the
the
police?
stands
Because
there
they're the
for
ones
a
who put
while.
it
Those are
into
some of the
this.
pictures that we had from earlier today. And
It
now
could have
that we're
been
able to
way
get some more
worse.
of these live pictures up for you, they're very different scenario, seeing the stands empty and now this single file of students
Amen,
making their
Juicer.
way to one of the exits there of the football field and going
Play
through
stupid
those
games,
couple
win stupid
tents in order
prizes.
to exit. We know dozens of kids have been able to be
I hope they put his
picked up
ass in
by
there
their
with grown
parents,
adults.
parents who've been able to make their way to the campus, and we know there are dozens of other students who whose parents are not able to do
Janet,
that. They're going to have to be
I
bused home.
do
So
on a daily
maybe this is a
for reasons
situation
like that.
where they're trying to
My
process that
kids and
part
I,
of this
y'all know my
and
husband
get the
travels a
kids who
lot.
aren't able to get picked up by their
In fact,
parents home safely
he travels
via
a
the
lot.
school bus. There is still a
Hush.
huge police
But
presence here on campus. We heard
my
from our
kids and I
reporters
have
on
been
the ground.
followed
That really
way too
hasn't
many
changed
times that
since
I
this
went
incident
and got
happened during the
my
10 a.m.
permit and I
hour
carry
this morning. And
anytime
as
we
we
leave the
have been
house.
saying to you, Appalachia High School, now a crime scene
If you
where
ask me,
4
they need to
people
put
lost
our
their
vets
lives
outside
today
of
in a
the
mass shooting.
schools
We've
and
been getting reports from students on the ground.
let them
Some
protect the
students
schools.
saying
Give
that
them a job,
they
something to
saw
do.
the gunman, the armed gunman who committed this crime. Many of the
But
students,
again,
when
like
it
I said, I
happened and
could
they heard the
go
gunshots, they
on for
weren't sure
days.
that if it was
Tennessee sweetheart
real or not.
about
When
this
they
stuff,
realized
but
it was, they went into their protocol of
I know we all have our own opinions.
holding up in their
And that's
classroom and
okay.
locking all the doors so no one else could get access to the inside until authorities were eventually able to file these hundreds of students out here to a safe place here at the football stadium. So as we're watching this progress now into hopefully getting more of these students home safely to their homes, we are waiting in the next 45 minutes to get a live update from the Barrow County Sheriff's Office. They've already spoken to the media once earlier this afternoon. They didn't release very many details. They specifically said they wanted to hold the details they know close to their vest until they get all the facts straight to make sure that no misinformation gets out to the public. And you can respect and understand that they want to do their level of investigation needed before they get any details out to the public.
You know, these pictures of what we're seeing of students filing
14
through
years old. I
these
just
tents.
that blows my
that
mind.
we don't know if they're sort of grief counseling tents or information gathering situations that students are being asked to pass through. We saw
Tennessee, I don't know if
the-
you just heard
the
that,
live
but
pictures from
where I
Skyfox
shared
5
that,
of the
but
football
they're
field,
saying it's
and the
believed to be a
police presence there
14-year-old
as
kid that
these
did
students
this.
stream out. There was video of an ambulance and an empty stretcher. We know there are 4 fatalities, and we don't know how quickly crime scene investigators will extract those victims from the building before their investigation is done. We have Fox 5's Eric Perry, who's standing by in front of the school. Eric,
1 o'clock, I
you're out
believe
in
that,
front.
being where you're
These
at.
live pictures from Sky Fox 5 in the back where these makeshift tents have been put up. And I don't know if you can sort of give us any more information as to what these students are doing as they pass through.
Yeah, Tom. So I talked with parents earlier who were out there at the football field. They say that they do have to pass through several different checkpoints. So they say there are grief counselors out there. Understandably, many of these students that were inside of this school, they heard the gunshots. Some of them
I'm
we
just
talked with saw
scrolling
the gunman. They saw
Twitter
all of this
or
activity.
X, whatever
There
you
are
want to
people
call it, to
there.
see if
There
I
are
see anything
counselors
else.
there. They can talk to people in that perspective. I've also been told that some of those tents belong to law enforcement as they scan through the belongings of those students, as they make sure that that they have everything under control before they're releasing the students to their parents. Of course, we do know that the suspect is in custody, but again, at the moment, the parents said they just didn't know who was who, and law enforcement wanted to make sure that they didn't let someone who might be affiliated with the school or with this incident be let loose. Let's take you where we're seeing now. We're seeing more active police cars that are going through here. And again, we're seeing a lot of people from a lot of different places. Keep in mind, we have the high school right here, but we also have a middle school that's next door. We have an elementary school that's next door. We also have a daycare that is right across the street. So we've seen parents walking with students all the way ages from infants, babies, toddlers, all the way up to high school seniors. Michael Dearborn, can you show that over there? This is one of the other schools. I believe that might be the middle school. You can see some buses that just pulled in. And in the distance, I know it is a little
Wow,
far,
Tennessee
but I
Sweetheart,
want to
that's
just show
awesome.
you everything that we're seeing from our advantage out here. We saw those buses pull up. We're seeing some more buses pull up there as well. And we see just kind of groups of people walking. So these parents have had to make a very emotional, a very long walk. They've parked some 2-3 miles away, walking just any spot that they could see. You started seeing cars just kind of parked when I got out
Henry,
here a
I'm
little
not
earlier.
sure.
They're just getting out and they're running down to be with their kids. Other parents say they've been out here since
You have
about
an
11 o'clock
iPhone?
this morning, 11:30, sitting on that
I
football
don't know if you
field
can do it with
with
an
their
iPhone.
kids,
I'm
and they're
not sure how
just
it
now
works.
able to leave
I
here. So
don't
they've
have an
had
iPhone.
incredibly long and emotional days as they walk as well. We'll bring you
Wow.
back around here. We've seen some more ambulances coming in. We've seen some ambulances going up to the other schools. Not sure if they're just there as a precaution or anybody might have had a medical emergency. Maybe the heat or emotions have gotten to them. But you're taking a look from the football field, those parents walking down, many of them emotional. They're tired, but they're grateful to see their babies. But again, on everyone's mind, there are 4 people who are not with their families right now. We're not sure where those bodies are, but the impact of just what we've been seeing out here can be felt. But also, if we can find a silver lining, a community coming together. Earlier, we were
Y'all,
there
let me
with a
tell you,
man
come
with
hell or
cases
high
of
water, but
water
I
who were
think
coming out, said he was just off
3:30 in the
from work,
afternoon, and
wanted
this
to come
happened at
down,
like
give out the water here. And
10:30,
we've
but I
seen that
just been
with
getting
people on
to
the back
my
of
kids'
trucks.
school.
We've seen that people on golf carts. People are helping as much as they can in a situation
There
like
ain't no
this.
way.
Tom, Christine.
And so, Eric,
nope.
you spoke to us
Nothing
about
would
those
stop me
students
from
being
getting
sent through
there
the tent where there's
ASAP.
grief counselors and perhaps investigators trying to gather
Fire me
information
from
about
my
what happened.
job,
Is there
put
sort
me
of a
in jail
rhyme or
after I get my
reason
kid. I
as
don't care,
to,
but you ain't stopping
who
me from
was
getting
let
there.
out of the school earlier in the afternoon and those kids who were on the football field who might have had something to say or who needed assistance or help in any way?
Funky, exactly. I'd be
Yes,
running
when I was
red lights,
walking up, the
stop
first
signs,
parent I talked to said
running
just
people
because
off
they've
the
never been
road.
through something like
I
this,
don't
it was a lot of emotions
You
and
better
just
get
kind
the
of
hell out of my way.
craziness is what she used to
Granny
describe
Bassmaster,
it,
I have
as those
4.
parents wanted to get in and the law enforcement wanted to do their job as well. I think really in a situation like this, you train, you have drills, things execute flawlessly, but there's still certain aspects to where there's be some hiccups. And I think the Parent Unification
4
Center,
from
we
the
just saw a
ages of
large cluster
12
of
to
concerning parents wanting to get to their children from what is being described to me, just trying to make sure they're all processed, and law enforcement want to make sure that everyone is very meticulously looked at and made sure that they were okay with no further questions or emotional support that they could give at this point before releasing them with their parents. I think you just saw an influx of parents and students and then law enforcement trying to get a handle on the situation while still trying to investigate what was happening inside of that school as well.
Both parents, students, and that whole surrounding
Oh my gosh,
community
look at the
just
little senior
so full of
parking spot.
anxiety today.
Oh.
Eric, thanks.
And we're hearing that churches in Winder are going to be holding prayer services this evening. No surprise again to see the community jump in any way possible to help these students, help their families, help the faculty and staff here get their heads around what happened in their school community today. And you know what, the first thing people go to, in no matter what
Granny
faith you are, is
Bassmaster, it
prayer.
didn't happen like that when I was in
So
school
no
either.
surprise
I mean, they
to hear
beat the hell out of each
churches
other and
and
then move on.
clergy
That was about it.
coming together to pray for those, in some cases they may know, and in some cases they may not know.
And as you said, and not lost among any of this, is that it's the first sort of crisp fall day out there today of the season. Students just started classes not too long ago. We're in the middle of football season,
It's been
so
in
much
school about a
excitement
month
in the
and a half,
air,
I
all
think
of it unfortunately up there to be brought to a screeching halt at
And
Appalachia High.
to really help you understand how much this news has spread across the country, really around the world, I'm on Appalachia High School's Facebook page, just seeing some of the comments that are coming through about people sending their thoughts, their prayers and condolences. Some people from Washington State saying, we're thinking
Janet,
about
meet
you.
at the Walmart
People from
parking lot.
Virginia
Whatever.
posting in the comments
That's where we
here.
hung
One
out,
person
was the
from
Walmart
South
parking
Africa
lot.
posting here because they're they're hearing with the nature of our news now and
We're
how
at
it
people
can be
hanging out on
spread.
skate rink, whatever. We
They're
didn't
hearing
do
this is
stuff
just
like this.
reverberating around the world at this point. Brittany Edney is on the ground for us as well. Brittany, what do you have from where you are?
Well, you know what? Unfortunately, it's just going to get worse.
Tom,
because
Christine,
there's
you
too
know,
many
we
parents
continue to
that
have
are
just these
trying
harrowing
to be their
accounts
kids' best
of what
friends and not
transpired
as
here
parents.
throughout the day from students. As those accounts come in, so does a lot of the media. You know, video that has been recorded or pictures that have been taken from this school shooting. I can tell you that we have a new video that we're not going to show just because of how graphic it is in nature, but I do want to talk about it because it really just kind of goes to show what these young folks have been experiencing. We have a video where you can see law enforcement in the hallway and a body clearly under a long white sheet, blood coming through, and students having to pass that body as they make their way
I
down
bet
the
that's the
hallway
math
and
teacher
out
they were talking
to the
about.
back
Oh,
of the
that's
school, you know,
awful.
towards the football area so that they can, you know, be in a safe area and conjugate out there. So that video, again, too graphic for us to show on air, but I want to talk about it because imagine that you are that student and you are walking past and seeing something that graphic, and likely someone that, you know, you normally pass through the hallway every day, or it could have been one of your teachers. You know, throughout the afternoon, we have shared with you accounts from students. One in particular, she is a freshman, and she told us that she saw her math teacher, a beloved one at the school, who she described as being a favorite and also, quote, the most chill teacher on staff. She described how he came to the door of a classroom to check out what was going on in the hallway when all of the commotion started,
Right,
and
Funky?
explains that that's when he was shot, and he was then
RJ,
laying
what is
in a pool
Bobo
of
shit?
blood in the hallway. And so, you know, all of those students
What
who were
is
in
that?
his class would have seen that, they would have experienced it, and then had to go by him, just like this young girl who did. She said she was just up the hallway a little bit
Nothing has stopped them
once
from
that was
showing it yet.
happening. And
Exactly.
she
Somebody
also
that could
described
possibly
something pretty
not be with us
powerful as
anymore
well,
on a
as far as
stretcher they
once
showed a
these
million and
students
one times. What's the
realized that this
difference
was
now?
not a drill, that this was an active shooter situation, once they came to that realization and started running for safety, that some students in other classrooms were opening the door to, wave other kids in. I'm told that her friend she saw get yanked into one classroom right out of the hallway. And you have to think about it. At this point, I don't know if the hard lockdown was in place yet. Eventually, from what other students are telling us, that hard lockdown went into place. They all got that communication. So I'm not sure if it's before or after that. But regardless, kids are trying to get their fellow classmates to safety when you are, in a very fluid situation. Not only do you not know what's going on, but you don't know where that possible, where that gunman possibly is, or that suspect is in these kinds of situations. So these kids are still opening those classroom doors and trying to get their fellow students to safety. So I feel like that was just, a really powerful testament to these kids
Emory.
and, how thoughtful they are of others. Another student that we spoke to, I want you to hear his account. He described how he was listening to music very loudly, and even through that playlist, he describes how he started coming to that realization that, wow, this was an active shooter, and that this was happening. I want you to listen to his account.
Oh, so I just heard gunshots like going off. I had my AirPods on full blast. I was blasting Ken Carson, and I heard like gunshots go off, and I was like, "Oh crap!" My friend like pushed me to the ground. I thought it was fake until I heard like more gunshots and screaming. I was like, "Oh!" And then they pushed me off to the side, and they came in there told us to get our hands up. So we like got out, and we were walking out, and then we walked past, and like there was a room, and then there was a body, and there was like the gun laying on the ground with like the bullets and the blood.
Oh my God. JLR just reported that
Now, you just
CNN
heard him talk
reported
about
there
a
to
gun
be 4
laying
at other
on the
schools.
ground. He also told me
Oh
that
my
that gun,
God.
he
And I
says, was an
think
AK. Another student also told me that that was their belief as well. Now, as of right now, we have not got any type of confirmation about what types of weapons were or were not used in this school shooting. I did reach out to my sources at the sheriff's office. I was told at this time they can't confirm that an AK was involved, but they can't deny that either. So they are still going through this magnitude of information themselves, speaking to students and, you know, of course, processing this scene. So at this point, we can't get a definite answer on that, but it is something that we are looking into, and hopefully we'll get more answers from the upcoming press conference with the sheriff's office at 4 in just a little bit. Another thing that you heard that student talk about was everyone kind of coming together, getting down. I do also want to describe to you what his friend talked to me about, which was the act of out of classrooms. You know, they described how when law enforcement came in, they were all told to have their hands up. They were all led, you know, as quickly as possible outside of that classroom, and law enforcement gained access to that particular classroom, he says, with the key. And this is after that hard lockdown had gone in place and that notification had
Juicer,
gone
yeah,
out to students
all
through
of those
SmartBoard,
babies
which
are
is
gonna
their
have nightmares.
communication system here at the school. You know,
Chunky,
he
I don't
also
know, probably
described just
sleeping.
how emotional it was going
I have no
past
idea. I've not heard from
those
her
victims'
since.
bodies as they had to go down the hallway. Again, we are choosing not to show you some of the graphic video of where at
They've
least
not
one of the
posted
victims' body
anything
was, that was
on their
covered with a sheet and blood was
Twitter.
coming through it. But in that video, we could see students having to pass it. There was no choice. You had to go past that body in order to get led to safety. So a very traumatic day, and students here are not only experiencing and feeling a lot, but they've seen a lot as well. Tom, Christine.
Just a couple real quick questions for you, Brittany. Number one, we don't know where on campus this shooting happened. In other words, in what building and what section of the school yet, do we?
I do not have exact locations, no. All that we have gotten from, and this is again through students, their firsthand accounts, which they have been bravely
Granny
and
Bassmaster,
calmly
I agree. I
explaining
don't
to
know that
us
I could even
through
let my kids
all
go
of
back
this
in that same school.
graphic scene
Like
today. They have been
the
calmly
PTSD that they're
explaining
gonna have
their accounts.
every day
They
walking
have
in
said
those
that they were in a
hallways.
hallway, not exactly what building location, but in hallways. I've also spoken to a student in a teacher's classroom who was in the math teacher's classroom, and their parent, and that parent told me that their daughter contacted them and said, hey, there is an active shooting going on. Someone left our classroom, went out for a few minutes, and then came back in with a gun. Now, we don't know exactly what transpired either beforehand. You know, was there some type
Oh
of
my
situation
God.
between a teacher and a student? Was there something unfolding between two fellow students that a teacher tried to break up? We don't know what really led up to that moment, only that a student left, came back, and then there was a shooting. And that is from a parent who talked to their child as they were picking her up, a freshman. He came out here to pick her up. So the specifics as far as like where everything was located in the building, we're not getting yet. But one thing that I am seeing, a common thread, is that a lot of students had to pass the hallway of at least one of the deceased victims. Again, 4 dead, 9 at area hospital. So a lot of students are having to walk by, and that's something that's definitely going to, you know, stick with
Jet
them.
lag. I'm so
Think about it,
sorry.
whether it's a
That's
teacher or a
awful.
student, these are folks that you pass in the hallway every day. Maybe you have class with, you share lunch, you share your lives, and they had to exit through that hallway and see those graphic scenes in order to get to safety. Tom?
And we just can't say it enough that our thoughts and prayers go out to the campus community there. Certainly all of the families who were impacted. Brittany, thanks. Just coming out of Brittany's piece and talking about, you know,
Jet
while
lag.
we have gone to school
Oh,
in
I'm
different
so sorry.
generations and might have had different relationships with our teachers, I get the sense as a
Dusha, you're
parent, and I'm
right.
sure you
The
do
kids
too,
can't get
that children
educations
have
anymore.
different and closer relationships with their teachers and the faculty, whether it's through sports or just involvement in students' lives. And so that makes a
There they go
situation
again,
like this, where
Punky.
Brittany's talking about, you know, what they're seeing in front of them, so much more difficult.
When you think about, you know, some of the younger kids, you've got 9th graders who made this transition from middle to high school.
Yeah, which is a big deal.
Which is a huge deal.
Yeah.
And within a month of starting their high school career,
they're traumatized by
this happens. So you certainly, when you see communities
Donna
come together,
Clark, this
praying for each
is
other, the
Barrow
grief counselors
County.
that are already on
It's
campus
outside
there
of Atlanta.
at the football stadium for some of those students. That has to be an immediate element
short
in this
legs.
aftermath, trying to help these kids process this and move forward.
Juicer, it is.
Angelique
Especially,
Proctor
like I
was
said
one of
earlier,
the-
my nephew is
was
in
at
this
Grady
school
Hospital.
district.
The
Like,
minute we learned one of the patients was taken
in fact,
there,
his bus
we want to go
had
back
to
out
pass
to
right by the
her
high school for
live,
him to get more checked.
and get a sense of what activity has been happening there. For those who might not know, Angelique, Grady is a level 1 trauma center. No surprise to learn that one of the victims was taken here.
Absolutely. Christine, we have been watching the comings and goings here at Grady Memorial Hospital all day long. And as you said, with it being the premier trauma center in the metro area, one would expect if you are severely injured, this is the place to come. And Grady officials confirmed for us they do have one gunshot victim here. It was about 11:35 this morning when I actually heard the chopper coming in to land with no doubt that person. I've talked to not one but two Grady employees who said they saw the chopper come in at that around the same time, and they said the chopper came in very, very quickly. And so we have been monitoring the situation since then. Around 1 o'clock today, we saw GBI agents who
Funky, I don't
came,
blame you.
here
I
to
unfortunately
Grady in
don't
two
have that
different
option
vehicles.
yet.
They
And
went right into the hospital
all three of
very
my kids are in
quickly
3 different
and
schools. So
presumed moving forward with their work. They were here for some 2 hours. They just left about 30 minutes ago. They had no comment as to what they were doing, only to say that their business here was in fact connected to the Appalachian High School shooting in Winder. So we did see that happen today. This has been a very unfortunate situation. Lots of people stopping us, asking us, are you all here in connection with the school shooting? And lots of people, just very disappointed that that's where we are in this country, where all of these school shootings just become a normal, everyday activity. But that is what we have been seeing. And we've been talking to Grady officials, trying to get some more information about the patient here, whether it is a male or a female. They will not confirm that at this time. We've also been asking about the condition of the patient. No confirmation there as well. They have referred us to law enforcement for any updates. We're also, of course, looking for family members of the person who was injured. We have not seen any Barrow County tags, but we continue to look for that, as well as other law enforcement officials. That is the very latest for you at Grady Memorial Hospital. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Angelique, thanks so much. You've been on the scene all morning when that victim arrived, when the GBI arrived. Interesting to note. So we got Newtown, Connecticut, Parkland, Florida,
Mr.
Uvalde,
Funky, they
Texas,
probably
some
would
of the
love
most
it.
impacted school shootings. Angelique mentioned that it's something that's happening all too often. Those are the 3 that jump out, and now what's happening here. If we could kind of set the table as to how all of this unfolded at about 10:20 this morning, local law enforcement descended on Appalachian High School up there in Barrow County in Winder, the Appalachian High School Wildcats, the high school campus where gunfire rang out. And there was a multi-agency response by law enforcement who swarmed that campus in the moments after reports of that shooting rang out. Authorities held a news conference a couple of hours ago reporting casualties there at the school. We learned that as recently as an hour ago,
Funky,
at
I
least
have a
4
whole
people have died,
opinion on that
and 9 were
situation, too.
taken to area hospitals
Not
up in
allowed to have
Northeast
firearms
Georgia, the
at a
medical
school.
center there, in Gainesville, and in Barrow County to be treated for their injuries. And you saw from Angelique's live shot that at least one victim was taken to Grady's level 1 trauma unit.
That's right. And we don't know at this hour Who
Shortly,
is
because they
among
haven't
the dead,
said
whether they
anything
were
about that,
students,
so I
whether
don't
they
know.
were faculty or staff? That is a question we hope to get answered here in the next 20 minutes when the Barrow County Sheriff's Office comes to the microphone. So many other questions we have. Who is this suspect that was taken into custody? Was this person a student? Was this person someone who used to go to the school? What are their names? This is a close-knit community. I would imagine people know their next door neighbor by name pretty well. Winder just being right along Highway 316. If you've made your way to Athens, you have driven through Winder where this has happened. It's more of a rural community, even though that's a school of 1,900, which is a lot of students.
Yeah.
I would imagine many of the people who live there in Winder go to that one high school. So everybody knows each other. So who are the identities of some of the people who were deceased today and who were injured? Sadly,
Henry, yes,
we
they did get him
we
alive.
hope this number
So
does not increase. We've
the
learned within
student,
the
I don't know
hour
why
that
we always
4
say
dead and 9
him.
have been injured from the
It's not
GBI.
always a him,
There
but
has not been an update to that
that's
number.
just what we go to,
So
I guess.
hopefully we do not hear at 4 o'clock that there are any more fatalities or any more people who are
Well, it's
injured.
interesting, Christine, you mentioned that this
I'm trying to stay on long enough
community
for the
brings
press
in
conference, and then I'll
1,900
probably have to
people.
jump off
It's certainly a
until the
more
kids go back to
dispersed
until the kids go to
area in
bed.
terms of residential than you would get in a more concentrated
Short legs, I don't know
area,
that
say
they've
in Metro
said
Atlanta. And yet this
whether
community
it was male
probably
or
knows
female.
each other very, very
They
well,
haven't
even
that
though
I've
there's
seen.
upwards of 2,000 students on campus. Fox 5's Eric Perry. You've been talking to both students and parents as they make their way off campus, and just hearing some of the emotional and alarming and tragic accounts of what happened there this morning.
Yeah, Tom. So you also been seeing buses like this. They've been going in and out. Hi there. You've been seeing Barrow County buses going in and out probably the last 30 minutes. I've seen them coming here to the high school, but there's really a big line up there. I believe that's at the middle school that is in the back part, and that line has grown since we've talked last. There were just maybe 3 buses at the last point,
You're
but
right.
now there are
It's
more
just
buses. To
say
your
it,
point
Talia.
about this community, everyone knowing each other, people on my Facebook page, seeing that we're covering this, said
hang
that
on.
they grew up here. They don't live
I just heard.
who go
Let me
here.
mute
They know different people who
I
are
can't talk
impacted directly.
sometimes and think straight. I just heard from locals that apparently the kids at the high school are saying there's a group that are planning to go to other schools in Barrow County. I hope it's not true, but that's what rumor is around with the locals. I don't think that I've heard of a female shooter at the school. Granny Bassmaster, the one at the Christian school, was a female. One of the last ones that happened was, I believe, she was a female. At the what kind of school was it? Yeah, it was some kind of church school. Hey, Michelle. The school shooting in Nashville was too. Oh, a trans. Oh wow, Lord help me! Don't give me the Christian school. I can't remember. This one wasn't at. I don't think it was in Nashville, but it was a female. I don't know. There's so many that have happened. I don't know. I can't keep them straight anymore, unfortunately. Was it? Okay, Michelle. Janet, 20 injured now. Well, I was looking at the GBI website and they've only said, which doesn't mean it's not changed because I've not looked for a minute. They had said 9 hospitalized, but multiple injuries. Four dead and an additional 9 taken to various hospitals with injuries. Suspect is in custody, and a live reports that suspect has been neutralized or incorrect. But I'm sure Funky, you're so stupid. I'm sure there's I can only imagine there's multiple injuries just from them trying to get out.
How are you processing all of this?
The
family?
sheer
There's a lot
panic
to go
of
through.
them
How are you
all trying to
processing this?
pile out of that school at
I'm
the same
trying to
time.
process it. It hasn't clicked yet. But I don't wish this on any parent in any country, anywhere. I felt my life flash before my eyes. Literally.
Did you hear the gunshots at all?
Yeah, I was in the hallway, so you could hear them like bang on the lockers and stuff. And then my teacher, she like left the classroom but came back. But she had like fallen, something happened, and she screamed at us. And we were in a science classroom, so there's lab tables. So we all like book it for the lab tables. She closed the door, turns off the lights, and you could hear them rattle the door. And then
Them as in the gunmen or police?
So, well, it had just police. I didn't hear police shouting until like 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, because we heard the sirens first, and then like a couple moments later, you heard like police, sheriff, and then you could hear like before the police arrived, it was like it didn't sound like a gun, but it sounded like I was saying like a metal trash can, like going, and you could hear the kids screaming down my hallway, and then you heard more like of like hitting the lockers and stuff, and then eventually the police came, and walking out you could see like what had happened, and then they took us all to the football field.
What grade are you in?
I'm in 10th grade.
Already. Thank you guys so much. I know it's been a
Apparently,
very long day
people
for you
on
guys. You guys have
TikTok
been
were
listening
saying
to
there's a
people who've been
list
out
of
on the football
schools
field for about 4 hours.
found
Tom,
with one of
Christine,
the
they're still trying to
shooters, and
process
they
it. I
didn't
think
get
it's
to the
still
hall.
haven't really sunken in what it is, but there are a lot of grateful parents, but they're also thinking about those 4
Yes,
people who
Juicer, that's
did
her.
not
That was the
survive this. I'll
Nashville
toss it
one?
back to you guys.
Just remarkable, Eric. Thanks for that live report. How composed these kids are. She had a smile on her face. After hearing all this, one kid was listening to his AirPods.
Sorry you left.
Said, "Yeah, I
Dawn,
heard
you're
some popping in the
slacking.
background, but." I don't know if it's just the world and the age we live in now where the shock value of something like this, or perhaps these kids might still be
For
in
some reason, I
shock,
thought it was like
after
upstate
something
somewhere
like
where
this
she did it, or
happens,
out
but,
west.
You hear about it so much, they
obviously not, but
tend to be numb to some, hearing about yet another
pretty
incident.
remarkable eyewitness accounts.
We do have some update on patients. Just want to pass some of that along to you. We talked about the Northeast Georgia Medical Center, Barrow and Gainesville locations receiving some patients. We've learned 2 gunshot victims total have gone to the Barrow location for treatment. So 2 gunshot victims at the Northeast Georgia Medical Center Barrow location, and 4 with panic and anxiety needing treatment for that. At the Gainesville location, they have 1 gunshot victim and 1 suffering from panic and anxiety.
All right. We're also getting a statement from Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock, who talked about the school shooting not too long ago. The statement he posted on X saying that the senator's heart is broken for the families of the victims at Appalachia High School and every student. And that he goes on to say that the entire Winder community is in his prayers. But he says we can't pray only with our lips. We must pray by taking action, and expressing his thoughts and prayers and condolences for the victims and all of those who were affected by the shooting this morning.
Yeah, and again, in the next 10 or so minutes, we will
Thanks,
get
Dawn.
an update from law enforcement from the Barrow County Sheriff's Office.
I'll have the tea.
They
I
said
don't
they
need
would
coffee.
come back to the microphones to release more information, obviously a heightened public interest on what is happening here in the small community of Winder. This story at this point making national headlines and really reverberating around the world, as we've been seeing some Facebook comments from people all over expressing their prayers and condolences for this small little community along Highway 316.
RJ, the way some of
here
these
in
were
Georgia,
handled,
just outside,
period,
of Atlanta.
has
We
been
heard from
horrible.
President Biden earlier today, Vice President Kamala Harris up in New Hampshire speaking. We brought you her remarks live. President Trump will be part of a town hall tonight up in Pennsylvania and will no doubt talk about the events that happened today. So there's the political element of this, obviously, as well in the immediate aftermath.
Our
A little
babies were
housekeeping issue that
killed. Why
all
does it have to go
after-school
political?
activities
Period. I hate
won't be
this shit.
taking place up there in Winder in Barrow County. And there are prayer vigils happening at some local churches in the surrounding community as well.
Yeah, not surprising to see again the community really coming together. We showed that young man with 2 cases of water, literally walking, 20
Yeah.
pounds of water, 30 pounds of water in each arm to get to the people who need it there on campus. There is still a huge law
When this is
enforcement
over, I want to
presence
show
there
y'all
at
a
Appalachia High
training that
School. When this
I've
first
seen
happened,
on a
traffic was backed up for
with
miles
the police.
leading into the high school.
I want to
It was
show
taking
y'all
some time for
the
parents
training that
to
they
be
do
able
for
to drive to
things
the
like
high
this,
school. At
and then
one
I'm gonna
point, they
have to
just
get
parked
off
their
because
vehicles and literally started
I told
walking
the
to the
babies I would
school
take
so they
them to
can
the
get
park. So we're gonna go do that
to
and run
their
some energy
students.
out
So
when
as
my
we
big
see
kids get home,
students
and then I'll
dispersing
be
now
back
from the
tonight.
campus, the law enforcement presence is
I've
certainly
got to
still
get better
there.
about
This
going
is
live,
now
y'all.
a crime scene inside the hallways and the classrooms there at Appalachia High School. We talked about the after-school activities being canceled. I would
Lunch
imagine
lady,
school's going to
I
be
have
canceled for
missed
the
you.
next several days as they try to continue this criminal investigation. One suspect is in custody, so that person's going to be critical to helping piece together what the motive is and why this happened.
And you got to imagine investigators are already at this person's house gathering evidence as well if they happen to live in the surrounding community. Fox 5's Brittany Edney has been in front of the school talking to parents and students, giving us some harrowing accounts of what happened inside. Brittany, I know from my reporting down in Parkland, Florida, and the tragic and unfortunate circumstances that happened there on a much larger scale, that school was eventually demolished. We know that there are at least 4 fatalities in the buildings of this school as well. We don't know what will happen in the days and weeks ahead or where the forensics investigation goes. This is now obviously going to be a memorial site as well.
Yeah, Tom, something that you just spoke about that I want to kind of build on top of is you're talking about this forensic investigation. One thing I do want to show you over here behind me, where the flag is, just underneath it, more towards the right side of the school, you can see probably about a dozen or so porta potties set up, and then all the law enforcement vehicles surrounding it. I mean, they are planning to be here for the long haul. Okay, so how long it's going to take them to process the scene. You speak to all the witnesses, write down all of those accounts, gather all of that evidence. You're talking about a long investigation, and they have already brought those porta potties out here and have set up different areas and command centers to prepare for that investigation. Now, there is something new, Tom, that I want to talk to you about. You had asked a great question earlier in the hour about where exactly in the school this shooting happened. I have new information that I want to show you. First, right out here behind where I was standing earlier, you can see this brick building with 4 columns as the door entranceway. That right there, that is the school gymnasium. I am being
Lunch
told by
lady,
one
oh
student,
my
a
God.
freshman, he says
Ooh.
that the coach there
That
opened the
just
door
gives
to
me
the
chills
gymnasium
thinking
and was
about
shot. And so that is his account of what is happening. He is adding just more details and locations as far as this school shooting and
We have
everything
to
that
do
happened. But
trainings
that
where they
gymnasium is, he
shoot
says,
guns in
one
the
place
school so we
where the
recognize
shooting
the sound.
unfolded.
Oh my
Again,
God.
adding that the coach there
That's
opened the
terrifying.
door and was shot. Again, no official confirmation on that. This is all information that we are gathering from students as they are bravely speaking with us and sharing what happened. I do want to show you a map that this student gave me of the school. We're going to have our producers put that up on the screen. And one interesting thing that this student also confirmed, along with his other classmate, was that you saw where we are standing and the brick gymnasium, right? Well, if you look up at this map, where that gymnasium is on your lower left side of the corner, I am also told that the hallway, and I'm assuming it's the hallway where we've seen a lot of the other students describe that victim's body that they had to pass. Well, it is the J hallway. If you look up on your screen in the top, I'd say upper right-hand corner, you're going to see J Hall. There's about 3 other surrounding halls as well on that map, but J Hall is where this student is describing another part of the shooting unfolded as well. So as far as like the locations, those 2 different spots are pretty far apart. And so that's adding a new layer and new details this afternoon, because you got to think about how long it would take to get from one side of the school to the other. How was school officials communicating to everyone as this unfolded? We do know from a separate student that the school communication system was used at one point, alerting everyone to go into that hard lockdown. But before all of that happened, we're hearing about at least 2 separate faculty members, and we're not ruling out that it could be one and the same, but at least 2, from what students are saying, opening these doors and getting shot. Again, you have to really understand in this situation where it is very fluid, a lot of information coming out at one time, and we still haven't heard a lot from officials. So we're just giving to you the firsthand accounts that these students have experienced, but it really paints a different picture of just how much of the school and different parts of it was impacted, and how many students likely had to pass through that J hallway, out past where the gymnasium is as well, and saw these bodies laying there. That's a very graphic thing for these young folks to have to experience and see, even if they weren't there firsthand when the violence happened. A lot of them, from what students are describing, if it is this wide location between those 2 separate parts of the building, I mean, they're going to have to go through those different hallways in order to get out. So there's a lot of exposure. And one thing I really want to hear from the school district is what kind of resources long term are these students going to have, because right now they have been bravely and just shockingly been very calm in describing some of the violence and the horror that they witnessed. But once they have time to have that adrenaline kind of settle down, get back home, have those tough emotional conversations with parents, what's going to be some of the long-term impact on these young kids who experience this massive shooting. And so definitely something that we want to see from the school. And kind of, Tom, what you mentioned earlier, what would the school's future look like, and what kind of changes could possibly come down the pipe as far as security, right? Multiple students confirmed to me that there are no metal detectors on campus. And so, what kind of long-term changes to the school?
Yes, lunch lady. Sorry, I didn't see where you asked that. This is in
experiencing everything today, Tom.
Barrow County, Georgia.
I'm wondering too, Brittany, you talk about these students
Not far
being so
from
brave,
Athens, about 30, 45
when
minutes
you're
from
talking to
Athens,
them,
Georgia.
getting their eyewitness accounts, and as they're leaving the campus, did you see any other students or families who were too emotional to speak? Again, we've been hearing these students so commend them at how well they're able to eloquently tell us what they
remarkably
witnessed.
composed.
Yes. Have you seen the
I'm telling you, I
opposite
think it's
as
adrenaline.
some
These kids
other
are running
students
off
and families
adrenaline, and it's
exit
not
the
hit them
campus?
what's happened yet.
I really just want to hit home the fact, again, the composure, Christine, as you just mentioned, of these young kids. I mean, they are openly and they are eagerly wanting to share what happened. This was their school. This was their classmates, their teachers, a favorite math teacher of one girl. And she spoke so eloquently, so detailed, really gave a firsthand account of what happened. And you have to remember, these are 9th graders, 10th graders, some 11th. I haven't even spoken with a high school senior today. A lot of them are the younger class that have described what happened. And now the sophomore that I just spoke to said, the section of the school where that J hallway is impacted a lot of the 9th graders. So you're talking about the youngest kids in the school, likely either experiencing the shooting or again having to go down the hallway, but they are speaking with us. And right now, again, after this just happened, very calmly. And, when we approach folks on a story like this and ask if you want to share what happened and speak with us, it can be met with different reactions. And one thing that we always do is approach it in a respectful way and make sure we make these young folks feel comfortable and also get parental consent for those interviews. But all of these kids, they've looked to the parents, and the parents said, yeah, go ahead. And they have wanted to speak to the press. They want everyone to know what happened. They want the word to get out and this story to be shared. So they have all really given just such detailed accounts of what happened and just bravely shared the details of what they heard, what they saw, and like what their experience right now.
Yeah, we're going to hear a lot of stories, no doubt, of heroism and bravery in the aftermath of what happened today. Brittany, thanks. And as we mentioned, the closeness that some of these students have with teachers and faculty, as we look at live pictures from Skyfox 5 of the staging area of the news conference, which we're expecting here now, reported to happen at 4:30 today. From state and local officials. The camera crews are gathering, anticipating some updated information in the aftermath of today's school shooting up in Barrow County.
Yeah, Sheriff Judd Smith did speak at the microphone earlier
Hi, Regina,
this
love you.
afternoon
Hey, Oki.
and prefaced that
Sorry,
press
y'all,
conference by
my
saying
kids
he's
are
not going to give out
loud for
a
a
lot of
second, so I have to
information
stay
at that
muted.
moment. That was a few hours ago at this point, maybe around the 1 o'clock hour, saying that they still want to do their investigative process, take the necessary steps to make sure the next time they come to the microphone, which again, as Tom said, is now going to be happening at 4:30, they're going to be able to give you, the public, the media, details about what happened here. Since that time, at that point, we only knew of casualties. They had only reported that casualties did happen here at the high school, and we have since learned more specifics that 4 total were killed today, 9 others taken to the hospital.
Our team of reporters are fanned out across campus there. We're going to hit Kevin Stewart in just a second, who's been talking to students and parents as they've been making their way onto campus. But we want to sort of set the table as to the events that transpired today there up at Appalachia High School in Barrow County. At 10:23, gunfire rang out. Multi-agency police forces responded up to and including the GBI when a gunman was taken into custody after fatally shooting at least 4 people there on the campus and injuring 9 others who were taken to area hospitals, including Northeast Georgia Medical in Gainesville and Barrow, for both traumatic injuries and anxiety as well. This campus was sent into chaos as students evacuated both out onto the football field and in front of campus. And then you can see there toward the top of your screen that roadway, which also passes a junior high school and an elementary school, which were also put on temporary lockdown before they captured the suspect that entered the grounds of Appalachia High and fatally inflicted those gunshot wounds on those 4 victims and 9 others. The roadway was shut down, and parents were forced to walk over a mile to retrieve their students who they were getting text messages from as to exactly what was unfolding on campus there.
And picking up their students was a process. Many of the students we saw gathered at the stadium, the football stadium there, sitting in the bleachers, and it was a process. It wasn't like the parents could just come up, say, I'm here for Jimmy, and they could just go. They had to question the student as they're continuing to try to get more information about this investigation, make sure the student who was being released wasn't involved in any way, and they had to make sure they identified and can prove who they say they were, and to make sure that the parent was the proper parent or guardian who was able to take that student from campus. So imagine walking that distance, that 1+ mile distance for these parents, then to get to the stadium and continue to have to go through, understandably, a more detailed process to make sure the students go home with the proper person. Then you have those students who didn't have the luxury of having a parent who can come pick them up.
they had to be taken home by bus. We did see a couple buses here in the last 30 minutes or so exit the campus, presumably making their way to some of these students to get them home
Yeah,
safely.
just wanting to hug your kid after hearing something like this. A lot of those parents, since it happened late in the morning, were already at work, unable to, quickly respond and get over there. Let's get out to Fox 5's Eric Perry, who encountered, Kevin Stewart, who encountered a lot of those students and parents. Kevin, we talked about the relationships that these students have with the faculty. It's certainly different, I believe, in today's day and age.
Well, I thought they were doing the
Christine and I went to
press
high
conference,
school.
but
The closeness they have
maybe they're
sometimes,
sugar daddy.
especially if they're involved in high school sports, they're involved with their families and their academic success. It just feels like a closer school environment today.
Oh no, Don.
Yeah, when you go to the kind of the
Nothing really has
ex-urban
come
or
out except
rural
for
areas, there is a clear
the half the
difference
kid
in terms of that
person
sense of community, because
in
everybody
custody
knows each other,
alive,
and there's a sense of
obviously.
collegialness. I mean, we had
9
someone just a few moments ago offer us some
hospitalized
water.
and
It's so
4
appreciated.
are
Folks
dead.
are coming
Packed.
together and really coming together to love on one
I don't
another
wanna
during
sound
this
so
really
heartless, but
difficult time. You can wake up
I
in the
swear I'm not
morning
trying.
and not know what you're going to get into. You can drill for instances like this, and we've talked to kids who said they have actually gone through school drills, but still be completely shocked, caught off guard when something like this happens. We talked to a mom and her oldest daughter who came to pick up their son, her little brother, today. He was in on the football field when he was evacuated. Had a chance to talk to the GBI to give his
This
take
is
on what
when,
he
you
saw.
guys,
And I want you
this
to
is
take a
when
listen
it
to what he
hits
said.
home. I just
Well,
got a
the cops came in
screenshot of
after,
an
had
email
the-
from the
one of the
county,
shooters in
the
custody.
board,
So
saying
they had
that the
us
schools
walking
are
around
going to
with
be
our hands
out
up,
for that
and
county the
they
rest
were
of the week.
telling us to go to the left, to come out through
That's
actually these
awful.
doors right here.
That shit makes me want to cry. My
They
nephew's
told us to come
only
back, and when I
in
when I
pre-K.
looked to my left side on the floor, I saw one of the shooters, and then like I would say 10 inches before that, there was a kid that was deceased, and then I had to exit to go to the field where everybody's at right now. So
You doing okay?
yeah.
He looks like a baby.
All right, so he is doing okay. I want to
Dawn, they're
clarify
supposed to be
something
at
that he
4
said. He
o'clock,
talked
but
about one of the shooters. As far as we know, there is only one shooter, and that person was taken into custody after this shooting, which took place here at Appalachian High School around 10:30 this morning. Guys?
Kevin, I'll ask you the same thing I asked Brittany Edney. Even the students you spoke to were just so composed and calm as they recounted what happened. And, some families and students don't want to talk. So I'm curious to see if you saw other emotions out there from students that may have been the opposite of that as people process things so differently.
I'm going to give you a kind of a personal approach to this. Sometimes when reporters show up on scenes and we're talking to people in awkward situations, and some people can be very, like we're vultures and trying to talk to folks, and we're trying to be sensitive because this is obviously a sensitive situation. And I can honestly say we only had one interaction with someone who was particularly tense. Folks were willing to tell their story if you approached them, and they would tell you what they knew, what they didn't know. And I would say, surprisingly, that people were very calm about sharing their story. I would say clearly they were relieved more than anything, because keep in mind, I've been reporting this, my colleagues have been reporting this. People have been trying to reach people on this campus, trying to find out once word got out. And because of cell service issues, they couldn't get a hold of folks. So once you get somebody that you're trying to reach, that you love, and make sure that they're safe, you're feeling pretty good, pretty happy right this. And I would say that's how people were feeling, quite relieved.
Kevin, behind you, we're seeing a larger stream of vehicles. Does that mean that they've reopened that road now that was closed off for so long that parents had to walk down to retrieve their kids? We see school buses and vehicles.
I know,
behind
Dawn,
you.
where'd I go? You know what? Old Dolly went live.
Could you repeat that again, Tom? I'm sorry.
Sorry, we're seeing more vehicles behind you now, where that road was closed and parents had to walk the mile and a half. Seems like they've kind of reopened it to vehicles and buses.
pre-recorded something or other. I don't know.
Yeah, Dave, could you pan off this crowd here? We were just talking about that.
Okay.
I,
They were
unfortunately,
not
because we're
taking
getting
a
ready for
break,
the live
that's
shot,
for
haven't
sure.
had a chance to talk to any of these cars over here. But that's exactly what I'm thinking. As we've been reporting all day, cars have been parked off to the side of the road, and the road was blocked off to people who only needed to be down here. And clearly, we have seen a steady stream of cars all of a sudden come down through this area. We've seen school buses going in both directions, sometimes with students in them, just a few, and sometimes empty. But yeah, if we pan back going down to Tom Miller Road is back in that direction. If you're familiar with the area, you'll see the school crossing sign. That area, that intersection, right about that spot, that area was blocked off. And now we have this steady stream of vehicles coming through. So obviously the road has been opened up. So that is the a next phase in getting a hold of the scene right now.
So that looks like that would be Heyman Morris Road that you're standing along there. Is that correct? For those who are familiar with
Yes.
that area. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, great point, Christine. Yeah, right along the school's front.
Okay. Kevin, great job out there. Thank you so much.
It's notable to say, you know, we've not seen the tears and the shaking and those kinds of emotions. Maybe, you know, the kids that have been coming out of the school weren't in proximity of where all this happened, although we did hear some kids talk about, yes, I heard the gunfire, and yes, I saw what happened, and there's the rifle. But it's just, again, we've been talking about it for quite a while now, the level of composure that some of these kids have shown as they walked out of what has been a very, very upsetting and tragic situation.
Really has been remarkable. Let's go to our Eric Perry, one of the many reporters that we have on the ground and has been talking to students and parents as well. What more have you been seeing, Eric? Because again, we're seeing the same thing that Kevin has seen where he is, where there seems to be more vehicles and commuter vehicles able to pass by that campus at this point.
Yeah, Christine, Tom, I do want to pick up on that. So while Kevin was talking, I was kind of asking some of the different cars that were going through here. This is the most cars that we've seen since I've been out here, since about 1 o'clock. They said that they've snaked their way around. But what we're also seeing is that the middle school and the elementary schools up there, you can see a lot of the buses. So you can see a lot of them are starting to be dismissed. At one point, we saw 6 buses leaving from there as well. So I think we're seeing a lot of people who might have gone to those schools. This one guy said he snaked around and he was able to get onto this road around some of the barricades here. So that's, I think, where some of the traffic is. Another point, we actually have seen some of the emotions out here as well with some of the parents. A lot of them who have been driving by, you can see tears streaming down their faces as well. We talked to students as well. We talked to people who were inside of the classroom. I want you to listen to
I think the
Caitlin.
presser was
She
pushed
talked
back
with us
to
live
4:30.
on air. She says that the gunman was
Just
her
a few minutes.
classmate, came to the door, tried to get inside, but they didn't. Take a listen to her recount those frightening moments.
Well, I was sitting in my classroom and he came up to my door, or the door to our classroom. Classmate got up.
See,
She
this
went to open the door,
student
but she
says
didn't.
he.
Because she saw that he had a gun, she announced it. As soon as she announced it, he started firing. We all went into the corner. He went to the other classroom next to ours, and I'm pretty sure I heard like 6 to 8 gunshots. And then I'm pretty sure he moved on to another hall because I heard more gunshots.
I was in class around like 10:30, and I heard 4 gunshots, and we all just like stood there, looked at each other, and our other healthcare teacher came in and told us to run to the closet or bathroom to hide.
Yeah, so you're listening to those accounts there. So with Caitlin, she was very composed when she said it, but standing up close, you could tell she had been bawling and crying from the tears. I've also talked to some parents as well. So afterwards, they were taken to the football the football field there. And from above, you could see white tents. They tell me that they have grief counselors out there for those students, but they also have law enforcement. They said that they were asking all of those kids who heard the gunshots, who might have been in the hallway who might have seen something. All of this is adding to the investigation. You might have had hundreds of people who have heard those gunshots, and it seems like law enforcement and those who are combing this area, they
Oh,
want to
yeah,
make sure
yeah,
that
no
they're
joke.
getting all of the
Can you
accounts. But again,
imagine
you can
being
see a
in
steady
ninth
stream
grade,
of cars starting to go
being
through
in the
here. You can see a
classroom
lot of
that
buses.
this
And then off to the distance, that is
kid
where
had
that news
knocked
conference
on the door to
expected around
try to
4:30
come
is
in and
expected
shoot
to
up?
happen. That's right out here. So there's still a heavy presence. As soon as we see any of those first responders or law enforcement leave the scene, there's another wave
That's
that
what,
comes
14,
in as well.
15
So
years
still
old,
very
14?
active out here,
I don't
Tom
remember what
and
age you were in
Christine, but
ninth
a lot of
grade, but
emotions
that's a
as well.
baby.
I'm curious, Eric, because we are now seeing some pictures here of police vans. I mean, you've covered crime scenes because of your reporter beat. You know what the scenes look like when an investigation is progressing. Are you seeing more police vans like what we're seeing live
Those
here?
kids, I
It
guarantee,
appears
live
that
with
they're now
survivor's guilt the
inside
rest
the
of their life.
school,
That's
furthering
awful.
this investigation.
Yeah, Christine, I saw some dark colored vans, which usually indicates crime scene investigators coming in. Maybe about an hour, hour and a half ago, they were going in. As soon as some other people were going out there, I can see some in my distance as well. So it seems like that initial investigation is going, but now they're combing through this scene. They're combing through video. They're combing through the hallways, the classrooms here, picking up every piece of evidence. This is a large, presumed to be a crime scene, as well as students told me that this
They're
happened
not
in the
picking it up
hallway
yet
and
and
that
just
they saw a
marking
lot
it
of
right
there. So
now.
you
That
have to
ain't
imagine
what
just
the
the
world.
amount of presence that's inside. They don't want to miss anything, any detail, any clue that could be inside here as well. And
My
I
hair
can
was
assure you
all
that they will be here probably throughout the night, through tomorrow, and probably the next day as well.
The work cut out for them, Eric. Thanks. And presumably, with 4 confirmed dead now, we're seeing that white van pulled up very, very closely to the one of the egress points of the building. There has to be medical examiners on the scene too, to remove the bodies of some of those 4 victims that were tragically killed inside that high school today. I want to get out to Fox.
I'm sure they'll have
Brittany
tarps put up
Edney.
around that van.
Brittany,
Or
something that
wait till
Eric
it's
talked to
dark
us about,
tonight when nobody
the
can see to
eyewitness account of
bring those people
Caitlin, that
out.
student
Oh
that
my
told him about what she saw and heard, and something that we can't get on here in the studio and on this side of the camera, but what you can are the sort of the nuanced reactions of these students, because we've been talking about how composed they are, but maybe we're not seeing something that you are. He said that Caitlin was visibly upset, and he could tell that at one point she had been in tears.
I don't doubt that. I mean, considering the magnitude of what has happened today, but I will say the biggest emotion that I am seeing is a lot of concern, anxiety, and fear on the faces of parents as they arrive here to pick up and reunite with their students. We've spoken about it several times this afternoon, just how surprising it is that these young 9th and 10th graders who we've been chatting with, who've been sharing their stories so bravely, how calm they have been. But that doesn't mean just because they are putting on a brave face that this hasn't impacted them, right? You've got a lot of adrenaline. You're almost, in shock sometimes in these types of situations. Something of this level of traumatic experience, right? But you don't know how they're going to feel later on this evening, tomorrow, when official word comes back and when victims are officially identified by the coroner's office and therefore passed on to the media and through law enforcement agencies.
When
Once
things
that
slow
comes
down.
out, and it's not just people sharing about it, but really seeing those names and the pictures and the lives that were impacted and lost and their loved ones. When that becomes real, that could also be, a secondary moment for when this type of situation hits hard for those folks, for these young people. So I have not really seen a lot of tears. I've just seen a lot of eager people who want to share their experience. And also the thing that I keep hearing over and over and over again is that this one math teacher was really just loved,
No, I think
admired,
they
and
did,
appreciated,
if I'm not mistaken.
who students say was shot, was laying, in a hallway, in a pile of blood. I just keep hearing about this one staff member and how much he meant to those students. But again, right now they are putting on brave faces,
So
and
now
they
the
are
math
speaking
teacher
about
must
what
be
they
made.
have witnessed,
Crazy to
what
me
they
how
have
these
seen.
kids are
Earlier,
acting
a
so
student shared with
different
me a
than
little
the
bit more
aftermath
in depth of where the shootings unfolded. Again, remember, we have 4 confirmed dead, 9 at area
I think because
hospitals.
I
But
don't
right
know
behind me,
Michelle.
you can see that this brick building with 4
We
white
could think
columns
of so many
right over the
different
doorway,
reasons why,
that
but
is the
who
gymnasium.
actually
We are
knows
told that
why?
that is one of the locations of the shooting, and that the coach went to open a door and was shot at that gymnasium. And then on the opposite side of the school in the J hallway, I am told that is another scene of the shooting. And when we looked at a map of the school that a student provided to us, you could really see how far apart these 2 locations were. So there really was a lot of time that it must have taken the suspect to get from J hallway or to the gymnasium or vice versa. So the 2 locations have a lot of distance in between them. A lot of the students have talked about having to pass, the bodies of either their teachers or students as they have made their way from the hallway to safety outside. One thing that we have gathered that we just aren't going to show because it is just so graphic, but we need to talk about it because these students are seeing it. It's important for families to understand what they have gone through, right? We don't want to show the video. It is graphic, but you can see a video recording of a law enforcement
I think
officer
it's just not
trying
moving.
to point
It's okay.
kids into the direction of the hallway that they need to go to get to safety. But as they are listening to his instructions and going in the direction that he is guiding them, you can see very clearly a body on the ground covered with a very thin white sheet, blood coming through it. So these young, freshmen and sophomores, these young kids are having to walk by that body in the hallway in order to exit the school and get to the back part of campus over by the football field, which is where they gathered after the fact. And one of the kids who shared that map with me earlier of the school and said that a majority of it was in J hallway, he says that's where a lot of the classrooms are for the 9th graders. I'm being told that the 9th graders, the youngest kids in this entire school, that they are the ones who experienced and were exposed to this shooting and trauma. So again, these young folks are going to have a lot to unpack this evening as the adrenaline wears off and as they get home to that safe place with their family and their parents, and they start to explain what they experienced. And not only that, but when the harder news comes down of the lives that were lost today. And again, this is a very close-knit community. We heard from a freshman earlier this afternoon who said, I can't believe it would happen in this small town. This sounds like something out of a movie or something you would see on national news at another part of the country, just not here. So it's right now, I think there's a lot of shock, a lot of surprise, and a lot of processing that still needs to go on, Tom.
And you've brought us a lot of those feelings and sentiments from so many of the students and parents that you've spoken to in the aftermath of what has happened. Brittany, thanks. We're certainly going to learn more coming up at 4:30 when we bring you the latest from investigators. Brittany, thanks. We are receiving a statement from former President Trump. We heard from Vice President Harris at a rally earlier today. The former president saying that our hearts are with the victims and loved ones of those affected by the tragic event in Winder, Georgia. Those cherished children were taken from us far too soon by a sick and deranged monster. That from former President Trump, who's scheduled to speak at a town hall up in Pennsylvania tonight.
And we talk about the difficulty for this community to grapple what has happened there at Appalachia High School. And you think about for law enforcement as well, how traumatic it is to have to do the forensics for this crime scene, to have to notify 4 families today that their loved one is no longer here. It just speaks to when these mass shootings happen, just the trickle down of how many, the tentacles that are extended of how many people are impacted by news by this.
Well, we talked about how some students' lives will be forever changed and whose lives will be put on a completely different trajectory in light of what happened. These are only, as Brittany was reporting, ninth graders in the immediate vicinity in this hallway J where the freshmen assemble and go to class, where presumably a lot of this happened.
Yeah, as we're continuing to show you some of the images of what happened there at Appalachian High School, what hasn't changed is the police presence that is on that campus right now. I don't think any of the law enforcement really has barely left as they continue to comb through this investigation that sounds like it's going to be very extensive in a school of 1,900 students. So you're talking about a large facility.
Nicole, you have not. They pushed it to
where the
4:30. So
suspect lives.
hopefully,
We talked about, I'm
for
sure,
4:30
authorities have
Georgia time.
since
So hopefully
descended
it'll
on that
start
person's
soon.
home again to try to gather some clues. We have to determine what a motive is here, what sparked this, what inspired this person to arm themselves and come to the school and commit such a tragedy.
So many questions yet to be answered. We want to get out to Johnny Edwards, Fox 5 investigative reporter who is at the Northeast Medical Center in Barrow, where, Johnny, we understand 2 of the victims were brought for gunshot and a couple for anxiety reasons.
No, actually, we're told one gunshot wound victim is being treated here right now. Also, 4 other patients being treated here for symptoms related to anxiety or panic attack. From the outside, it looks like any other day here at the hospital, but a spokesman confirming that information for us. Also at Northeast Georgia Medical Center's Gainesville Hospital, there is another gunshot wound victim being treated there. That is a level 1 trauma center, also with non-life-threatening issues, non-life-threatening injuries. At the Brazelton location, there is also one patient there with symptoms related to anxiety or panic attack. Also around Atlanta, we know of one patient at Grady Hospital. Another hospital, Children's Healthcare's Eggleston Hospital, is a patient taken there for evaluation and treatment with the extent of injuries unclear at this time on that patient. This is, of course, an evolving situation. We'll keep you posted as we get more details. Reporting live in Winder, Johnny Edwards, Fox 5 News.
All right, Johnny, thank you so much. Let's go to our Denise Dillon, who is live at Eggleston Children's Hospital for us on the ground, where, Denise, again, we know that one patient has been taken there.
Yeah, well, when first responders first pulled up to the school, they took a look at all the victims and determined which hospital would be
I
best
swear with these news stations, there
treat
is
each
zero
patient. And as
privacy
you
for
said,
anybody.
one of
It's so
those
insane.
patients was
They
rushed
will
here
find
to
you
Children's
even at a
Healthcare of Atlanta
hospital.
at Eggleston. The hospital has confirmed that for us. Now, sources close to the hospital say that the patient being treated here is a 15-year-old female student with a gunshot wound. And we do not know her condition, but obviously, as I said, medical personnel determined that Eggleston is best equipped to treat her injuries. We do hope to find out more about the condition of this student, as well as the others who were wounded in this tragic shooting. And as you just heard Johnny Edwards say, that these victims were transported to hospitals across the region in getting the
15
best
years old.
possible treatment for their wounds. Reporting live outside Children's Healthcare of Atlanta at Eggleston, Denise Dillon, Fox 5
Denise,
News.
thanks. The trauma folks at these hospitals well equipped to receive, unfortunately, patients like this, but they are ready when that does happen. One of the places where that couldn't be more true is Grady Memorial Hospital, where earlier today, one of the victims of today's shooting was airlifted. Fox 5's Angelique Proctor was there when the helicopter landed, and Angelique, you saw the GBI going into the hospital to try to gather whatever information they could.
That's right, Tom. We have been monitoring activity here at Grady Memorial Hospital all day long, and it was around 11:35 this morning. I heard that helicopter landing as it came in, obviously with that one patient, the gunshot victim that we were told about here at Grady Memorial Hospital. Lots of people wondering why shootings like this are still happening. We've had so many people to stop us and ask us today, are you here in connection to that shooting? that happened in Winder at Appalachia High School, and we have to break the news to them that yes, that is why we are here. Keep in mind, Appalachia High School, some 45 miles away, at least an hour drive. That's one of the reasons that that critically injured person was airlifted here this morning and has been treated here at Grady Hospital. We continue to ask officials here a lot of questions about that patient, questions that they say they are not willing to answer, like the sex of the patient or how the patient is doing. Lots of people walking by telling us that they are praying for this situation. Also, Tom, as you said, I did see 2 GBI investigators dash into Grady Memorial Hospital this afternoon. They arrived about 1 o'clock. Presumably doing some kind of work inside. I speculated that they were trying to gather some kind of information. They were here 2 hours, left the scene about 3
Thank you,
o'clock,
Arthur.
and we have been looking for additional law enforcement since that time, as well as family members of the patient who is here. We continue to monitor this situation and will have any updates as they become available. Live from Grady Memorial Hospital, Angelique Proctor, Fox
Hopefully
5
Angelique,
the
real quick before we let you go, and you've been
press
at that
conference will
hospital so
start
many
soon.
times in the aftermath of something like this. Just talk to us, if you will, for a second about the readiness and preparedness. They run through their own drills there at a trauma unit like Grady to be able to receive patients in circumstances like this.
Absolutely. The moment that they hear that there has been a shooting, there are several things that immediately go into play at a level 1 trauma center like this. Grady, of course, being the premier level 1 trauma center in the state. They are ready and capable of handling particularly gunshot victims. I have been told by Grady staff over and over again, if you are critically shot, this is where you want to be treated. And of course, lots of people praying for the person who is up there now from Winder, Georgia.
Yes, Grady is an
Angelique,
amazing.
is there any indication from the hospital that they may be coming out and giving an update on the patient that they're treating there? That's not unusual for them to also do that.
It is not unusual, Christine, and I talked with the hospital official. She came out and indicated there would be no news conference about the condition of this one patient. She made that very clear because once we heard there were 9 people injured, we immediately thought, could a second one be here at Grady Memorial Hospital? So I circled back around with her and she said, no, we just have the one patient and we will not be discussing that patient's condition or doing any kind of news conferences. But of course, this is a fluid situation. Things could change at any moment. We continue to remain here and monitor this situation.
All right, folks there, no doubt,
I
wanting
bet that's
probably to defer to officials.
I would assume
Angelique,
it's a
thank
minor
you
if the hospital's
at this
not
news
gonna speak
conference
on
that
it.
we're expecting any moment now. You saw
I
the
don't know
cameras
for sure,
assembled,
but
waiting
that's
for
just
them
my
to come out to give
assumption.
us the latest on exactly what happened. We're expecting that news conference to start any second now. And of course, when it does, we'll take you to it live.
We will hopefully get the nuts and bolts of what took place this morning at Appalachia High School. There's still such a huge police presence there as we're watching the investigation unfold with
kids
many
sound like
of
they're
the
tearing
police
my
vans,
downstairs
and
up.
we're seeing officials going in and out of
I
the
don't know if
school
y'all can
still.
hear
So
that,
I'm
but-
curious to see how much of the nuts and bolts at this point Barrow County sheriffs will give us when that news conference starts, but they are cameras are in position to take that live when that happens.
And what, if any, information has changed? I mean, we know now the latest here as you watch officials approach the cameras there to give us the latest. What has changed? We know at least 4 dead. 9 taken to area hospitals with severe injuries. Judd Smith, the sheriff, will no doubt lead this news conference up there. But a lot of long faces, as you can imagine. This has been an exhausting day for officials as they've worked to not only get all of the students out of that building, but now to begin the investigation into what happened, who the shooter is, why that person decided to enter the school and open fire. And of course, the forensics investigation, the crime scene investigation, if you will, as to what happened in the aftermath.
And let's go ahead and as we zoom in, listen into, do we have that audio ready? Okay, let's go ahead and
we
listen
wanted to
the
come back this afternoon and present you with a little more of a timeline of the
And
events that
I
have
can
taken
only
place
imagine.
here
I
today
can't even
and
imagine.
what we know up to this point with the investigation. At approximately 10:20 a.m. this morning, the Bexar County Sheriff's Office received alerts about reports of an active shooter and radio traffic from school resource officers concerning the same concern or having the same concern. Within minutes, law enforcement was on scene, as well as 2 school resource officers assigned here to the school who immediately encountered the subject within just minutes of this report going out. Once they encountered the subject immediately surrendered to these officers and he was taken into custody. Additionally, what I want you to know as of now, there are 4 individuals who are deceased from this incident, 9 that have been taken to local hospitals with various injuries. Of those that are deceased, 2 are students and 2 are teachers here at the school.
Oh my
The
God.
priority right now for us within this investigation is to gather all the facts, to make sure that we're accurate with it, because this is a murder investigation. As the sheriff mentioned earlier this morning, the shooter is in custody. His name is Colt, that's C-O-L-T, Gray. He is a 14-year-old student here at the school, G-R-A-Y. He is a 14-year-old student here at the high school. Again, he has been taken into custody. He will be charged with murder and he will be tried as an adult.
Thank God.
Handled as an adult. We're coordinating these charges and obviously this investigation with District Attorney Brad Smith, who is the District Attorney for the Piedmont Judicial Circuit here. Since earlier this morning we talked with you, and since the incident occurred, numerous interviews have been taking place through our investigation with students, faculty, as well as any other witnesses that we could identify. Law enforcement had a very, very swift response to this incident once the incident was determined that there was a concern here. Those resources, whether it was in that response or throughout this investigation to assist, came obviously from the sheriff's office here, from other local law enforcement agencies, state law enforcement agencies, and the federal law enforcement agencies as well. To include, not to be left out, multiple EMS personnel, multiple fire personnel, and agencies. Those agencies responded here as well today, and I am extremely grateful, as I know the sheriff is, for that quick response and the partnerships of working here together with what all has gone on. Currently, from the investigative perspective, we have crime scene agents and other special agents from the GBI, from close to a dozen of our different work units from across the state that have responded here today to work on this investigation. Again, collecting evidence, conducting interviews, and so forth. I do want to pass this along, that if anyone has any information that wants to be passed on concerning this investigation, that they can do that anonymously at our tip line at 1-800-597-TIPS or 1-800-597-8477. They can also report this on by downloading the See Something, Send Something app. They can be done by Android or Apple phones, either one. If they need to report any tips concerning this investigation. Let me close out before I turn this over to the sheriff and let you just remind you that this is still a very active investigation. There is still a lot that is very fluid. There's still a lot of interviews to be conducted that will continue on into the night, as well as crime scene work and collecting and gathering evidence. But what is more important for me to mention here to you is my heartfelt sympathy to the parents, the students that were here today, regardless of where they were in the school. This has got a great impact on them as well as on this community. My thoughts and prayers, along with everybody standing behind me and every law enforcement agency in this state, and many I will tell you around this country, they are in our thoughts and prayers, and we will continue with that. We ask for your patience as we continue through this, and we'll continue to try to give you as many updates with information as we can to keep you informed. But thank you for being here. I'm now going to turn it over to Bexar County Sheriff Judd Smith. Thank you.
Director, would you spell your name, please?
H-O-S-E-Y.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Sheriff Judd Smith of the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. I never imagined that I would be speaking to the media in my career over something that happened today, the pure evil that happened today. I cannot thank the people behind me for the support they give me today, to give this office and give this staff. This is
All right,
home
I'm
for
doing
me.
good, but he me choked up.
I was born and raised here. I went to school in this school system. My kids go to this school system. I'm proud of this school system.
Nicole, I know you ain't lying.
My heart hurts for these kids. My heart hurts for our community. But I want to make it very clear that hate will not prevail in this county. I want that to be very clear and known. Love will prevail over what happened today. I assure you of that. It is very early as to what happened. Governor Kemp reached out to me and has provided me every single resource that he has to make sure justice prevails.
Amazing.
I don't know
Governor
why it
Buttigieg.
happened. I may not ever know. We may not ever know. But I ask that you and our community lift up our schools, lift up our public safety, and that, again, we do not let this hateful event prevail as to what happened today.
Tina.
I want to thank the surrounding agencies and counties and cities and state and federal authorities that have come and provided us, because they prevented a lot of more tragic events from happening. Continue to lift up these families, continue to lift up our students and our kids, and know that love will prevail. At this time, I'm going to ask Dr. LaDuff, our school superintendent, to come and speak on behalf of the school.
Good afternoon. I'm Dallas LaDuff. I'm the superintendent of Bexar County School System. I want to thank the Bexar County Sheriff's Office and all of our law enforcement partners for their swift response today, along with that of our staff. I'd also like to thank our community for their response and patience as we work to reunify the students with their families here today and secure the rest of our school campuses. Our schools will be closed for the remainder of this
That's
week
Georgia State Patrol right there, y'all.
as
Those
we
cops.
cooperate fully with law enforcement to get answers to the many questions that we all have about this incident here today. But as we are closed, our central offices will remain open, where we will have grief counseling available for our community every day this week and thereafter as we support each other through this terrible event. In closing, I just want to say to our community, as a school system, we are here for you. We support you, and we are ready to get you any support that you may need as we grieve through this together. Thank you.
Sheriff, if you're saying hate will not prevail in this community, are you investigating this as some sort of hate crime?
Well, shortly, if someone decides to take a firearm into a school where kids are given an education or entitled to an education and want to harm others, to me, it's hateful.
Sheriff, can you talk about the initial interaction between whoever was able to stop the shooter?
I think they asked if they plan on charging him as a hate crime. I think that's what they said.
Obviously, the shooter was armed, and our school resource officer
Seems pretty damn
engaged him,
hateful to me too, Nicole.
and the shooter quickly realized that if he did not give up, that it would end with an OIS, or an officer-involved shooting. He gave up, got on the ground, and the deputy took him into custody.
Sheriff, any idea how the weapon got inside the school, and was there any warning that this was going to happen?
Not that I'm aware of. Again, very early, and we're still looking into that, whether or not, or how he obtained it.
Y'all
how he got
excuse
it
my
in the
language,
school.
but I hope they charge this little sucker and put him in prison for life.
We have.
Any information?
Let him rot.
No.
What kind of weapon? It seems like you have a large Hispanic population. Have you been able to communicate with the people in their language to make sure that everybody knows what's happening?
Yes, sir. I have. The school and our office has people that speak in Spanish, and they have spoke to those folks as well. Yes.
Sheriff, is the shooter speaking with the law enforcement now?
Sorry.
Is the shooter talking? Is he saying why?
The shooter was interviewed, and he was speaking with our investigators earlier, along with the GBI.
How is that? How is that helping the sheriff?
I wonder if we'll
It is-
ever
it is
hear
helping our
answers with him
investigation.
being a minor.
Reports of threatening calls perhaps made to the school prior to the shooting. Is that accurate?
None that I'm aware of.
Were all 9 injured victims shot?
In some capacity, yes.
Sheriff, can you tell us about the 2 individuals deceased and was one targeted?
We don't know of any targets at this point.
Sheriff, what kind of weapon was used? Have you identified the weapon?
We have not identified that at this point. No.
Sheriff, is there a connection?
This is the last question I'm gonna take.
Sheriff, is there a connection between the shooter and the victims?
None that I'm aware of.
Was the shooter a student here?
I know
Here
you
comes
got
Crybaby
a lot of
McGee.
questions about the student and that we mentioned that we identified earlier. Keep in mind that that's part of our investigation.
Janet, you
And
might
we're
be
looking
right.
into
If
every
they
aspect of that
are charging him
individual,
as a minor or
his
as an
connection here at
adult,
the
they may
school.
not care.
Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, he was a student here. So as part of our investigation, we're looking into all aspects, current and prior, involving that individual.
Well, can you tell us how many rounds were fired? Can you tell us how many rounds were fired?
Do what?
The shooter is a student. Yes.
When can we expect the
We do not know how many rounds.
Director, has that shooter had any past history with law enforcement?
For now, this is the information that we have. It is an active investigation. I assure you, we do plan to come back out here in a couple of hours. Please make sure you're following the GBIX page. That's where we're going to be putting the updates. If there's anything that's new, we'll make sure that we share that information. It's still very early. Investigators have a lot of work to do. We appreciate your patience. Do expect another in-person news conference out here next few hours. Monitor the X page, and we will be sure to update you accordingly. Thank you.
And that's the on x.com.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, much anticipated news conference just ending here with multiple agencies coming to the microphone and releasing some key pieces of information that the public has been looking for. They have identified the shooter as 14-year-old Colt Gray, who is a student at Appalachian High School. And they also reported that the 4 killed were 2 students and 2 teachers. And the 9 injured had some gunshot wound in some capacity.
The GBI speaking about what happened in the immediate aftermath of the shooting, that the 911 calls came in at 10:20 this morning, that school resource officers were on the campus and engaged Colt Gray, the 14-year-old who police say opened fire, and that police responded really within a few minutes of the gunfire opening. Again, 4 dead, 2 students and 2 teachers, 9 others injured, all of them in area hospitals. And according to investigators, we just heard that they're still, they didn't have a lot of answers to so many of the questions because they're still gathering so much information as to the whys of all of this. Of course, you can't get into the head of somebody who does something like this, but they will have a lot of questions for Colt Gray, the 14-year-old who they say did all of this. They say they were very close to it being an officer-involved shooting. That means an officer neutralizing, taking down the 14-year-old suspect but he dropped his weapon and then dropped to the floor before they took him into custody.
And you heard a very emotional sheriff, the Barrow County Sheriff, Judge
Billion Dollar
Smith,
Man. I don't know
very
that they've
emotional
said exactly
because,
what firearm
as we have been
used yet.
reporting throughout the hours, this is a small knit community where everyone knows everyone, and he communicated his kids went as part of the school system. He went to school there. He's
okay. We will come back to that in a little bit. I wanted to show y'all, this is a look inside of how police deal with, oh Lord, let me get off here for a second. Active shooters. Just because I know the news was talking about it earlier, how the police have, it is not a sneeze, he's just being ridiculous. The police were talking about how earlier in the news how they do these trainings every year. And I was just gonna show y'all a video that I have watched that shows you exactly how they do it. Now I'm gonna mute so my son's not yelling the entire time.
So every year we do active shooter training for the entire department. We'll bring each precinct in. This year we're at a high-rise building. It's about 16 floors. We're doing 2 different scenarios. The first is going to be in the parking deck. It just comes out as they're hearing shots fired. The officers get there. There's multiple shooters, and we're just assessing them to see how far we've come as a department in our training.
So today we're using the officers issued duty weapons, the long guns. They're using the Smith & Wesson MP15 and the SIG MCX short barrel rifle that we issue for patrol units. We're doing our scenarios to start here in the parking garage. The officers have already been triple safety checked. They've checked themselves and been checked by 2 of the range staff safeties. We've gone through and checked every officer, make sure there's no live ammunition or less lethal devices such as tasers, asbatons, or OC sprays that could be introduced into the training environment. In addition to that, we've swapped out essentially the bolt carrier systems in all the rifles with more traditional training bolt. Those bolts are made to fire a specific type of ammunition, being whether it's simunitions, which are like paintball rounds. In this case, in the parking garage, they're shooting blank rounds, which is more of an auditory round, so to speak, that doesn't actually have a projectile that comes out the end of the barrel.
Yeah, so initially, if it comes out as a shooting, our officers are trained to go towards where the gunfire's at, because we're trying to stop the actual killing at that point. Once we have the scene safe, then we start the rescue task force. They come in and we actually try to get the victims out. And we've done really good at getting that first part done. So we're really trying to ramp up the second part of actually getting the wounded out, getting all the bleeding to stop at that point.
So rescue task force for fire department, we team up with PD, create a team of 2 to 3 firefighters with 2 officers. We go in, take care of patients, and get them to an ambulance exchange point. So classroom stuff that we're teaching today on the fire side, so our rescue task force, us partnering up with PD, we're also doing some elevator operations with this being a high-rise building. We're also teaching drags and carries to police and fire.
We go upstairs and we do some training on movement drills in a building like this. There's 16 floors, so we do some stairwell stuff, talk about deconfliction, all that type of stuff.
So it's important for PD and fire to train together, just so we can learn how we both operate, what we do, our responsibilities, and so that we flow better as a team in that RTF. And biggest thing, what we're finding, one of the biggest things is communication with with fire and PD, and then also that communication between just the companies themselves.
And then we do a larger scenario at the
Unfortunately,
end
it's
of the
kind
night
of boring.
that's inside
Y'all
the
just
building.
bear with
And
me.
that is more intense. We have victims that are made up in makeup. We have other things just to get the officers to focus on multiple things, because this is going to be a realistic building they could actually come to at some point. But we do it every year, and just to assess how we are training as a department.
Give y'all a little insight of why I like this video so much. I may or may not be related to the monster in this video. In fact, he was just in that clip of the 4 of them running. I wonder where them going. Oh crap. Ah. Hang on. This cow just messed everything up. You're about to get in trouble. Are y'all able to hear this still, or is it not working for y'all either? You can hear it? Okay. I don't know what. It's choppy. Okay. I'll just come back later and we'll do that. My kids are becoming wild, so I need to go take them to the park. Yeah, I'll be back and I'll show y'all that video. We'll just start from the beginning. And that way I can take these kids to the park and run out some energy before bedtime. But thank y'all for hanging out with me for almost 4 hours. And I'm sure I will find Janet. We do too. I just don't feel like getting in the pool, so I'm gonna take them to the park and let them run wild. I'm sure we'll have more information, probably pictures of this kid. That I'll try to find some stuff and go live and update or talk about what we've found out since, or from now until later. And we'll go from there. And then I'll show y'all that video later and My dad is actually the one in the video, so I will point him out to y'all and show you. But till then, I will see y'all later.